I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order for Wednesday, May 13th, 2015. Can I have an acceptance of the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Mr. Vignani. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Moving on, walk-ins. Are there any walk-ins here this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to a report of the Town Administrator. Tricia, good evening.
Hi. Thank you. I included in your packet just sort of a running list of items pending. Always a lot going on, but should give you a flavor of what's happening in your office and my office and through the various town departments. The plethora of them pretty much demand that we set priorities as we go forward, especially with the building project. So as I can, I'll try to update you on all those. At least just providing the list at every meeting. Four quick things. One, we're working right now, Nancy Holt and I, on the presentation of Standard & Poor's for the town's issuance of $90 million, and that's going to be June 8th. So we're finalizing that today and Thursday, as I'll be out of the office next week. The hybrid vehicles that we received through our grant are here, and the construction that you see near the other entrance by the town clerk's office is the charging station, and that should be ready hopefully in the next week, and it's also available to the public, and another one will be going in the North Scituate, where the WPA building is, which should be a nice place too, because we're building the new recreation playground down there as well. And there'll also be the fax coordinator officer and the social services manager working out of the WPA building for the next couple of years. So, activity in North Scituate.
So how does that work, Tricia? In other words, it's obviously open to the public to be able to use if you have an electric car.
Right.
Is it going to be like reserved out front here for like just electric recharge, or is it going to be like the parking? I saw the two cars there, but I'm like, are those two spaces going to be designated for recharge, or?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we tend to recharge the cars overnight, so the vehicles won't be here during the day, or they'll be moved to a later parking, a different parking space here. The two vehicles are going to be shared by 4 people in Town Hall: Conservation, Board of Health, Building Inspector, and the 4th one escapes me. Thank you. So they'll be there overnight, though, for the charge.
So the public has access to it, though, right?
They do. But if there's...
And then, I'm only saying because I think somebody comes to Town Hall to use it, the space going to be used, occupied for Town Hall purposes, or what's
It'll be a regular parking place right now, but we can talk about that. But clearly, when we intended this, we needed one to charge ours, and that's the 3rd one. We've had one in the water department for almost 2 years now. So the one we really want the public to use, so that will be unencumbered, is the one at the North Scituate parking lot. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So, and it's free also? So, great, Benny.
Yep.
The WPA building, if we're going to put that in there, I was at the rec meeting early this week, and they were talking about the new playground that's going in there too. But we have those parking constraints there where if you park, you can get ticketed if you park on one side and not ticketed on the other. So we should probably set up some sort of meeting with the MBTA before that goes in.
Yeah.
So that...
We were able to designate those spots there's 5 there for people going in the WPA building.
Right.
So I'm sure that will be workable with MBTA once it's ready to go. I think the board's aware, and if anybody's been to the beach the last few days or week, we have new beach signs that the staff spent a lot of time on, and were designed to have all the beach rules and regulations in one place, as well as educate folks about sharks. Some people think that it's pretty funny that we have that on the signs, but actually it's a very real issue, and we encourage people to read the stuff on the signs. We don't want to unduly concern people. We just want to educate them. We have a tremendously high seal population, and the Recreation Department and the Coastal Resource Officer actually tracks the shark activity. So again, we're not anticipating problems. We just want to educate people so that the harbor master and the police department aren't responding to sunfish sightings. And the last thing is sort of a personal request, is the winter obviously hit us all very hard, but our golf course opened later, and we would encourage everybody who can swing a club to please go and use Widows Walk before June 30th. That will help not only their health and exercise, but will also help the revenues for the golf course. So that's all I have.
Questions from the board? All right, great. Thank you, Tricia. Moving on to 7:05, discussion vote. Dan McAdams donation for painting services for the Scituate Lighthouse. David Ball, President of the Scituate Historical Society. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Well, we are coming here tonight to inform the board and the taxpayers of the town that Dan McAdam has made a very generous offer to paint the lighthouse tower and also the railings at the top of the tower. I've been talking to Dan about this for a couple of months. He made the offer sometime in March. I think you all have gotten a letter from me that kind of outlines what he's going to be doing. I did tell Dan that we would need an extension of his liability policy that would name the town and the society. He has provided that. He's talking about doing this sometime in June. He'll give you a little bit more information on some of this stuff. I did have a discussion with the individual that was involved in the major restoration of the tower a few years ago, when we removed the top outer course of brick, and also painted the tower at that time. That individual...
Was that done, Dave? Was that like
it was done around
2003?
2006 or 7, I think. That individual now is the facilities manager at MIT, but he did arrange to have a very interesting bell delivered to the lighthouse, and while he was doing that, I had a discussion with him about the paint to use, because I told him that Dan was making this offer, and he concurred with what we're talking about for the paint. So I think we've got everything in order. Dan tells me that if this was going to be done by him on a paying basis, that it would be at least $6,500. So it's a very generous offer, and it's a nice gift to the town. So I'd like to have Dan just explain a little bit about what his company is all about. By the way, he's got a very impressive website. I checked it out. McAdamPainting.com, if anybody wants to check it out. He's got a commercial painting company. So go ahead, Dan.
Hey, thank you. Here tonight is the owner of the Sandhills General Store. We came in a year ago, just about a year ago at this time, as the new owners of the store, requesting some help with some seasonal beer and wine license. And I have brought in packets for everybody explaining what I did with my other business, how my companies have donated back to the communities that, we're involved with, and that was the intent with the Sandhills General Store.
You might need the mic. Sorry, Dan. Thanks.
But that was the intent also at the time with the Sandhills General Store. The board at the time granted us the trial with the seasonal beer and wine. It's worked out well. And so, as I said, we'd like to give back. We've done some stuff down there over the course of the year, different things. 4th of July, we had some water slides, dunk tanks for the kids. Over the winter was a little tough. We'd give out some free coffee, but I was walking down one night, I took a look at the lighthouse. It is in need of a paint job, and I'm like, we're in this community that's right up the street from us. What better thing to do to give back to the community than to paint the lighthouse? So I approached Dave about it. Dave went through the channels, historical, and, they're all for it. So, the town has been very helpful with us. The board has been very helpful with us with the store. Anything we've wanted to do down there have been very, very helpful, and it's worked out very well for the store. So, we want to give back, and so that's a way. We're sponsoring some Little League teams. Actually, I just stopped by the park on the way up, checking out one of the teams, the Sandhills General Store. Iron Hens, I think they're called. And so we'll get them down there for some ice cream after a game one night. And so, that's all it is. It's just about giving back, and I think it's a big item that needs to be done. It's a big part of Scituate. It's a big part of our community. Tourists are coming in. Let's make the lighthouse look good. Very simple. So.
Did I hear that you're going to be putting the logo of Tool Painting on it?
Actually, I'm
what I
afraid of
heard?
heights, so I asked Marty to come and do
Sure?
the high
Is that
part
what the
for me.
logo, I thought the kind of commercial, like the,
He doesn't have, his whites are long gone,
I don't have-
so.
Yeah, I don't have white, so Marty's going to take care of it.
on behalf of the board, they'll all speak. Just want to say thank you very much, Mr. McAdams. I mean, that's a very generous offer. I recognize when you were here last year, you said that your commitment to the community and giving to the community, and certainly this is very generous from the town. I know the paint itself, it's not just slap on the paint. I mean, it's a special paint, and of course, that's why I asked Dave about when was the last time it was painted, because it takes a beating, because it's getting that nor'easter and the salt and the wind and everything else, and it's not an easy task. I'm sure Marty could probably tell us. It's getting up there, scaffolding and everything else, and just, thank you very much. It's very
Welcome.
generous and appreciated.
Thanks for all the help from the board to the store, so thank you.
Warren?
Great donation, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
It's nice to keep it in your neighborhood.
Absolutely.
So, that's terrific.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people are excited about it down there, too, so it's good.
Tony?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's not only for your neighborhood, the whole town.
Exactly.
It's the highlight of the whole town, and like you said, in the summer season, perfect timing. Very, very generous of you.
So I think I heard O'Toole Painting was going to stain Lawson Tower, is that?
Oh, wow.
You're on your own, Marty.
Selectmen's houses.
Marty, do you have any?
No, just make sure you let me know the date.
I will. Dave's going to schedule that. We got to schedule around weddings or whatnot going on,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we're going to work on that. We're going to have it done before July.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Dave, thank you, appreciate it,
Thank you.
gentlemen. Thank you. All right, moving on to a 7:10 discussion, vote outdoor entertainment permit for Scituate Maritime Center, July 11th, 2015, from 7:30 to 10:45 p.m. Barbara Leahy, is she here? Folks, come on up.
Thank you.
Looks like you are having some acoustic guitars, which you'd like to be able to have, and I forgot what it was for.
It's a birthday party.
Birthday party. Okay.
40th birthday party for my daughter-in-law. And it's actually, Michelle was nice enough to work it out. There's another event that day, so this actually starts at 7:30, so it'll be fairly
Perfect.
brief.
Hopefully it'll be nice and sunny. Get a nice sunset.
I hope so.
Questions from the board? Anyone? No. Can I take a motion?
Move the Board of Selectmen approve an outdoor entertainment permit for an acoustic guitar at the Scituate Maritime Center on July 11, 2015, from 7:30 p.m. until 10:45 p.m.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Great.
Congratulations.
Enjoy.
Easy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I got to go back to the 7:05 discussion vote, because we didn't vote.
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah, we have to vote, yeah.
I suppose we should probably vote to enable them to paint the Scituate Lighthouse, otherwise that would go over
There's a
flat.
motion here.
So how about if somebody gives me a motion?
Move that the Board of Selectmen accept a donation from Dan McAdam, owner of the Sand Hills General Store and McAdam Painting Company, Incorporated, to power wash, spot prime, and paint the tower of the lighthouse at no cost to the Scituate Historical Society and the town of Scituate.
Motion by Ms.
Second.
Curran, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Now let's move on to a 7:15 discussion vote update to library naming opportunities. I know Ginny Ayers is here, Library Foundation. Jesse Finney's here also, Library Director. Ladies, good evening.
Evening. We're here for presenting the naming opportunities list, but we also wanted to make a presentation for a check. And since it's a group effort, I'd like to ask the other foundation members if they
Sure.
can stand up with me, if it's all right with you.
Absolutely. Have them come on up.
Ruth, do you have a camera?
Do you have a camera, Ruth, or
I mean, I don't want to do your job for you, but
Jessica, or anybody?
Jessica?
Jess, do you have a camera? Ah,
Of course, I have a camera.
Oh, do you want mine?
I have one.
Okay.
it's front page material, Ruth.
Don't worry about standing in front of me.
well, it is, because there's a huge donation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's a great thing.
Yes, you guys get together behind Jenny.
Maybe you can get them all.
Get the foundation, that's the
Come up here,
thing.
yeah.
We get in the news way too often.
Yes, right.
How's that?
Just take one more, okay?
Hold on. Yeah, hold on, hold
Oh,
on.
yeah.
Everybody in. Greg, would you wait till...
Don't worry, just,
Ready?
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you already named it. The Situate Library Foundation, obviously, the town of Situate, and we wanted to make sure you understood that this is the first installment of what we expect to be several donations. We have a lot planned over the next 18 months, and we're sure that once these shovels get in the ground, the building comes down, the project becomes visible, the town will support us in supporting this amazing community project.
That's great. Thank you. That's awesome, folks. Thank you. What's that?
Did you want to read the amount?
Yeah, I mean, so everybody can see it on TV. I don't know, can you get that on TV? It's $500,000 from the Scituate Library Foundation. It's got to be the largest check that's been donated since I've been on the board.
The
Forgive me if
largest
You
three
good?
added together.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's phenomenal. Ginny, that's great. And everyone else.
So Ginny, this is from,
Group effort. This is obviously a group effort. I'm relatively new to the organization, and people have worked very hard to make this happen. There's Gary Fernquist is here as the treasurer, John Kalopoulos, past president, Bruce Marshman, Marlon Minier, Elizabeth Holthouse, Sheila Cookstis, and obviously Jesse as the library director. Am I missing? Bruce. I got Bruce. So, and that's, not everybody's here, obviously, but that's...
Right. But still, appreciate the
Effort.
coming to do that. I think it's important for people to see, obviously understand that, and thank you very much. That's great.
You're welcome.
That's
You're
great.
welcome. So we also have the naming opportunities list that's carried over from the last meeting to present. It's the result, there's a naming committee that consists of 2 representatives of the Board of Trustees, the Library Board of Trustees, 2 representatives of the foundation, 2 at-large members, and Jesse as the library director. So this list has been vetted many times over, and it was approved by the Library Board of Trustees at their meeting on Monday.
Just so that people understand, for the entire building, that's obviously another number, but if for 2 of the rooms, I guess the great room and main room, it's like $100,000. There's another room, the lantern room, the teen room, that's $75,000. Another degree would be large conference rooms, the local history room, the staircase, $50,000, and then another one for $25,000, $15,000, $10,000. And then it looks like you have another category for $5,000. And so on, and then also 1,000. So those
There
are
are
the
plenty of ways for everybody to get involved at
exactly,
every
so-
level.
And it's exactly.
Any dollars count.
Questions from the board?
I just for the public, how would folks reach out to you to donate if they're not on your mailing list, or if you're
Thank
not
you. No, that's a
aggressively
good-
seeking out the donation?
Thank you, that's a good question. The Scituate Library Foundation has a link on the Scituate Library website. It has its own website as well. They can reach out through Jesse, through any of us, through the website. Anything else?
And we have the plans up in the library as well, if people want to come and take a look at the spaces, as well as we have the renderings online, so people can kind of see what the opportunities will look like in real life.
Yeah, the architect put together some fabulous renderings, and they're beautiful pictures, so they give you a real good idea of what you'd be sponsoring, or what the library's going to look like for the whole community.
Great, thank you.
yeah, is there a date you're trying to get this done by? Because, I mean, it doesn't end when the library gets built. This naming opportunity will go on past that as well, right?
Correct, right. I think ideally we were shooting, it's been a long campaign already, and we're kind of shooting to say that by the end of next December of 2016,
Right.
the library would presumably reopen in September, and we're anticipating having another big gala. We'll have one big gala this fall at the beginning of November, and then having one big one when we open the following November, October, November, and so hoping by December that we would be wrapped up.
Great. Great job.
Thank you.
Artie? Question? Any questions from the audience? Anyone? All right. Jenny, thank you very much. Jesse,
Welcome.
likewise. Folks, thank you very much. We
Motion? dated April 20th, 2015.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Curran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good.
Good.
Thank you
Good luck.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to move on to a 7:25 discussion, vote common viculars license for Pete's Mediterranean Fresh. Greg Bucouras?
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Perfect.
Thank you. Are you Pete?
I'm Greg. This is Pete.
That's Pete. Well, this is exciting. I want to see the menu, to be candid with you.
It's on Facebook.
Any event, go right ahead. This is your presentation. You get an opportunity to do a little PR right now.
My name's Greg Bucouras. This is my son, Peter Bucouras. We're starting a restaurant in Scituate. It's not really a variance we're looking for. We're looking to get a common victuals license, and we understand that you need to get the health department signed off before you can get the common victuals license. What we were hoping to get was basically the approval for the license that we can possibly open up we're trying for this holiday weekend.
Yep.
On the stipulation that everything else is approved next holiday weekend by the
Board of Health.
Health Board of Health.
Yep.
I've been working with them closely, I'm in there every week, a couple of times a week. And we have contractors working in the restaurant right now, electricians, plumbers, carpenters. We should be ready to go by next weekend if everything goes the right way, which, whatever. But we, at least, if we could get it before your next meeting, that's the reason that we're here, is to open as soon as possible. We understand it's a little out of the ordinary, but we wouldn't open until we got everybody else's approval anyway.
I have no problems. I'm not sure if the other board members, providing the Board of Health says that, yes, you're good to go. That's the bottom line. When Board of Health signs off on it, then that's fine with me. And the fact that you're trying to do it before Memorial Day, and it's early this year as compared to usually later, I could see why you're trying to do it, because people are going to be coming downtown, and you got a great opportunity to open up. Now, the thing you haven't told the people and the public is, where exactly is it going?
It's got in the corner of Front Street and Otis Street. So it's right in the middle of downtown, right in the intersection across from the liquor store, and it's a great
Diagonally across
location.
from Reva's, across from
Yep.
Sylvia's,
Creo, a couple
and then
down.
a few doors down from Creo.
That's right.
Everybody will know where it is. Questions from the board?
Just a quick question. You say a restaurant, I looked in there, it looks great. Is it like a deli thing, or there actually is it sit-down meals, or how's it?
There's going to be very few seats. It's more takeout.
Right.
It'll be in a deli case where there'll be grab-and-go items, but you can also, we're going to be making hummus in there every day, tabbouleh every day, baba ganoush and that. So there's a lot of, it's all fresh.
Right.
It's all fresh stuff. So people could come in and say, I want a small hummus, and that's,
But
it's like a
to-go type
grocery.
stuff, right?
To go.
Stuffed
I have
grape
no
leaves?
problem.
Stuffed grape leaves?
Yes.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Is this your first endeavor for a store like this, or do you have one in another town?
No, I've been in the food business for a long time.
Okay.
But I've had a restaurant a while ago. I've had a appetizer company, a national appetizer company. Actually, we sold to Costco, BJ's. So I've been in the food business for quite a while.
Okay, great.
Peter's a foodie. He hasn't been in the food business, but I have the experience and he has the energy, so.
It fits.
That's good.
I have no problem. Obviously, it's contingent upon the final inspection by the Board of Health, so I have no problem.
All right. Any
Motion?
questions from the audience? Anybody?
Jane Everett, Inner Harbor Road. I just want to tell you that on First Friday, a bunch of us had those little samples.
Yes.
And it was absolutely delicious. We have been waiting for you to open up.
Oh, thanks a lot.
It is so yummy.
Thank you very much.
Motion? Anybody, any other questions about their menu or food? Okay.
Typically, we had samples at events like this.
I know, I'm kind of like, that's a good way of getting a motion passed with food, but go ahead.
Move the Board of Selectmen approve the new common vic license for Pete's Mediterranean at 105 Front Street, contingent upon the final inspection and approval by Board of Health.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Vignani, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very, very much.
Good luck. All the best. All right, we're going to move to 7:30. Don Knapp, we're going to have a Memorial Day events, the Veterans Agent. Don, good evening. The floor is yours.
Floor is mine. It's The Memorial Day event will take place, obviously, on Memorial Day, May 25th. It starts off, the morning will start off with a flotilla going out to the hotel buoy to throw a reef in honor of all those that lost their lives at sea. After that, what they'll be doing is going up to the VFW, having a ceremony there, a brief ceremony.
What's the ceremony there? I've never been to that.
That one, it's they do an honor guard up there in the morning and present a reef up there also at their facility. Following that, between 10 and 10:30, everyone will be staging in front of the town hall for a procession and parade that will step off 10:30 sharp, going up First Parish Road to the Lawson Park. At the Lawson Park at 11:15, approximately 11:15, there will be a ceremony there. So that's, nothing has changed. That's how we've done it in all these years. This year, what we're doing is we're making sure that there's going to be handicap accessibility. So I've spoken with the chief of police, and we've gone over just a plan that normally on the back, the east end of the common is closed, that small road right there, I think that's Branch Street.
Branch, yep.
They block that off. So what we're thinking is anybody that has needs handicap accessibility, they can park there.
Okay.
And then we're also putting a handicap porta potty on the common itself.
Good.
To make it more accessible for a handicap.
Just raise an issue there, Kevin, you might know. Is the common accessible?
It is. I went down and
So you can get up with
police the area, and on each corner, it's kind of like a triangle.
Yep.
But on each triangle, there is access
get
up onto the
common.
sidewalks.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, so that's why we thought down there for the parking, because it already is closed.
Yeah.
That'd be easier, and then the other thing too is Mike said to me that, anyone can go up to any uniform officer there and ask for assistance. They're going to be informed about the parking and if anyone needs help.
Good.
So.
Yeah, they've been great over the years.
Right, yeah. So.
Got another question. Can, I know sometimes in the past the VFW kind of deals with it, but can we work with getting the flags up around, whether it's in Greenbush or in Front Street, to make sure that the American flag's out for Memorial Day?
On the poles.
On the poles?
Yeah, they normally do that. I can ask if that...
Just to kind of make sure, and if not, but they usually sometimes need to coordinate it, maybe with DPW or something. I think they need a bucket truck.
Yeah, we have a bucket truck on. If you want to catch up with me tomorrow and let me know where the flags are and everything else.
That would be good, only because we should have them up. I'm not sure on North Scituate we have any, but the vets wouldn't know. I know they moved it to Greenbush and obviously Front Street.
Yeah, they've already put up all the reefs that we put up on all the memorials. They've done that. Fran Lyden and the grounds crew and all them are hard at work trying to make everything pristine as usual.
You stole my thunder. The common, I'm sure everybody sees, it's really nice. They've done a great job. So kudos to them. They really have.
And then this Saturday right now, it's in the plan stage, but it looks like it's a go. But I'll be meeting with all the Boy Scouts and the troop there, and we'll be putting out all the flags on the veterans' graves Saturday morning.
Good. Questions from the board? Marty?
This weekend, or you got next weekend?
This week.
Prior to?
Yeah. It's usually the weekend before, just, it's a little congested in that weekend, so.
Right.
Okay, good.
No, it's a great event. John will be speaking, and it looks like Commander Young is going to be there giving the keynotes, so it's always a great event. I highly recommend everybody go. It's about an hour and a half long, is that? Well,
I was going to say, we haven't seen.
John, keep it
I think everybody's going to give their time to me so I can do the whole speech, That'll take care of it.
No. But it's a great time. The Little League participates and all the youth groups, and they march up there, and it's been a great time, so looking forward to it.
Questions from the audience? Anyone? Don, sounds good. Then we will see you a week from Sunday. No, Monday.
Monday.
Week from Monday.
Sunday, that's if you have to start your speech, and that's how long it's going to take.
I got to practice.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right.
All right, let's move on to a 7:40 discussion vote, the North Scituate Glades Beach Nourishment Project. Applied Coastal Consultant, Kevin Cafferty, Director DPW, Nancy Durfee, Coastal Resource Officer.
We had the water meters before that. Do you want to?
Did I skip that? Oh, I skipped that. Let's go to the water meters, sorry. Trying to jump ahead here at 7:35.
We'll get
Come on
that set up at
table,
the same
we'll
time.
go with the thing, how's that?
Jimmy's here also for the.
So let me read that. Discussion vote, water meters, contract award, Sean McCarthy, Town Engineer, DPW, and Jimmy DeBarros, Water Superintendent, DPW. Jimmy, how are you? Sean's not here? Is he doing it?
No, I said I'd take care of it
Take
for
care
him,
of
so
it?
it's
Okay.
not a problem. Basically, we went out to bid, and it's a little misleading. We sent it out to 3 specific suppliers that supply the type of meter that we use in the town of Scituate. We also advertised in the Central Register, which goes all around the state, and we also advertised in the paper for the bids for these particular meters, the radio meters that Jimmy uses. And we did receive one bid. Price is very similar to what we received in the bid before. And that's that.
Is this the same, we've done this in the past, I know, like...
We've been
almost every
using
year.
these
Is this the
special
same
radio
company?
meters. It is the same company.
Right. And no response from the others, is there any particular reason?
because
or
these meters, they're
speculation of-
basically, what'd you say it, they're,
It has to comply with the software also
Yeah,
and everything. It's not,
compatibility.
you don't want to get a different type of meter that won't work to our radio readers. So that probably has something to do with it because the technology isn't there.
yeah. Like Neptune meters are Neptune meters, badges are badges, and they don't interchange with certain
Gotcha.
software.
So where are we in the process as far as replacing these
The
meters?
system's about 98% metered totally, but we're,
Really?
yeah, with old meters, but we're about 25% with the new meters, the radio drive-by meters that are easy to read within 1,000 feet.
Okay, so 25% there, what are the, what were you doing with the old ones, and replacing the old meters?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
not electronically drive-by? Is that what it was?
No,
or-
we're replacing, the other ones that were in, basically you had to go up to the home and, put a register on it to get the reading back, the feedback from the system, the meter itself. And now basically you can be about 1,000 feet away from it and you can do about 300 meters every few minutes, you can pick them right up and scan them, so. Plus they got a database too that you can look back historically to see if, somebody has a drip in their house, or a leak, or excess usage that they're concerned about.
How do you get to that? Because I had somebody who called me about 2 years ago, and they had some property in Quincy, and they said they got a call, they had a leak, and they were contacted within like 2 days of the leak to prevent it. Is that through the new meter system that you're able to collect that information, go back and say, gee, there's an awful lot, or how do you...
Yes, we're still establishing it all, trying to put all this together, but eventually, when we do have it all installed, we'll be able to have all that inputted directly, looked out for. Right now, it's the basic starting of it, so that's why I say we're about 25% into it. But we have
And I
the
think the
system.
second contract is about 6% of your meters?
Yeah.
About 6% in total. I think it's like 8,000.
There's about 8,000.
236 residents that have meters in the town?
There's about 8,000 meters in town. Like I said, 98% of them's, metered.
And this is unit prices for different size meters, so if the subdivision came in and they wanted a 4-inch meter or a 3-inch meter or a 2-inch meter, our typical meters are 5/8, and it just establishes all the unit prices, so they can order what they need when they're replacing.
Typically, we've just been buying 5/8 meters, but there's other master meters out there that are bigger meters and a lot of water loss, and these things are our cash registers, so, we like to update the older ones.
With new subdivisions, then, they're obligated to get the meters that you can drive by?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. We basically, we've been doing it like trying to do a precinct at a time. A lot of the construction areas, we've been trying to hit it while we're there, and if it works, we try to, we get access to the homes, it makes it a lot easier.
It's a huge energy savings. You pull up into a block in an electric vehicle, and you can basically just take care of every home in that block. It's pretty incredible.
You get the electricity from the turbine.
Right. But plus you're driving an electric vehicle, right?
Yeah, the electrical vehicles work
Great.
out really well for us.
Yeah, so I remember years ago, we did all of them over again, and that was to put the meters that you have to walk up to.
Right.
So now we're upgrading all that again.
Correct.
And you said we're 25% done, and this is going to add 6%? Is that what you said?
No, this, what the meters
I
that
think
we're getting,
I think the value of the meters is about 6% when you tally it up.
Like 31.
So
The number of
it's
homes
gonna
that you'll
take us
complete?
many, many years to get everybody up to that.
Absolutely.
So our water meter, under the capital plan, we replace meters every single year. It's a continuous recycling, replacement product, so we never stop. So that's why
So it's a 15 or
it's
16-year
continuous,
cycle to get
yes.
everybody up to these.
Exactly.
Yes. That's what we did with the house ones and now this, so it never ends.
And is this installed?
No, these
We
are just for
install
the
these
hard
ourselves.
products, the water department
So
installs.
they're just dropping off 236 of these things, and then you have to go install them all?
Yep, we make the appointments, whatever we need to do to get access to the homes or the buildings and replace
Better
them.
longevity with these?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
All right.
That was my question.
Questions?
Sorry.
Answered.
It's also too that, that meters that are less than 10 years that might be defective, the company will also take that back and return a new one to us, so it's something that we weren't doing in the past. So that's a positive win-win for us.
That's great.
Motion?
Motion, please.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to award the contract for water meters with integrated radios to Thai Sales Incorporated of Sudbury, Mass., contract number 15-WA-38, for a contract amount not to exceed $180,590.68.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by
Second?
Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jim, thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, while you're here, can we just have a quick comment on some of the brown water that we're having? Just so people know that we're in that time of the year and not to be surprised.
Yeah, not to be surprised with all the construction that's going on in the town right now. It's very difficult to hook up the new pipes to the old pipes because the infrastructure is obviously so old. So we're in neighborhoods where the gates are old, they're being replaced. We're adding insertion valves where gates aren't able to work, which these are quick valves that we set into the ground in order to have better control of the system. Right now, the project that we're doing up on First Parish Road is really a tough one because that's where the main line is to the tank. So when we're filling it, it tends to go up 3A, fill towards the tank, and then when the demand is down, the water will come back out of the tank and it'll come back down 3A and First Parish Road. So basically, we got that whole section shut down, and we've basically reversed the flow in the system that hasn't been going around that way for a long
We've changed the routing
time.
of the water in order to replace that line.
In order to get through there to replace everything.
So that it is tricky. We were trying to do it as soon as we could at the beginning of the season before things got too far. I know this past weekend, there was a brush fire up somewhere on Grove Street that might have led to some of the brown water on Sunday.
And a few weeks ago, we also had a hydrant that was sheared off by a driver, and that caused about 1,800 to 2,000 gallons a minute be surging out of the system, so that's basically just stirs everything up in the system.
So I've had it twice in the last couple weeks, but it usually only lasts about a day.
Yeah.
So, and the precaution, Sheila, where's Sheila? She told me how to handle it. You go outside, you turn on your outside faucets and let the water run for about 15 minutes. And
Correct, and the best thing to do is to run the cold water first to make sure that the water's cleared before you run your hot water, because you'll tend to pull the dirty water back into your hot water tank, and that's something you don't want to do. Because then people will tend to be aggravated with that if it's lingering around. So the best is to check the cold water first, make sure that's clear, and then use it. But we see a lot of improvements in areas where we've already worked, so.
So everything's linked right now from last year's construction, right? Everything's turned on, the new pipes, they're all being used.
All the new pipes are in service.
Absolutely.
Correct.
And it'll be messy for a little while, but
It'll be messy
obviously
for a
the
little while.
long-term thing is all the pipes will be new eventually.
Yep, and then we can get better control on flushing too, because we have new gates in areas where we had old gates, so. that'll help.
And there was a question, should we be flushing in the spring? With all the water work that's going on now, and we're working in the main, we're just going to stir more up in the system. There may be a flushing program depending on how everything works out in the fall, but we're not going to jump into it. We're afraid we'll just create more brown water by
We
doing
have to
that.
carefully make that decision not to stir things up at once.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Jim, thanks. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to what I said earlier. The North Scituate Glades Beach Nourishment Project, Applied Coastal Consultant, Kevin Cafferty, Director of DPW, and Nancy Durfee, the Coastal Resource Officer. What's that?
This is John Ramsey with Applied Coastal.
John, how are you?
And Rebecca Haney, who's with Coastal Zone Management and the State Geologist, is also here in support of the project.
Great.
And
Evening.
what we're going to do is just give you a little rundown of what's going to go on. John will take care of that. And where we are and what we're doing with it. And it's an exciting project, and we're all pretty excited about it and looking forward to the benefits of it. We figured we'd share it with everybody and with the board.
Good. Just if you could move the mic around, Kevin, so they can
I'll
get on
pass that
TV.
on. Do we want to
Right.
kill one light? Can everybody see it?
I got disconnected.
Can you get that on TV?
Yep.
Thank you.
Disconnected maybe from the PC?
Is that all right for everybody here?
Is that okay?
Nancy can't see to hook it up. I'll come around.
You got it?
You might want to turn that back on for just 2
Yeah.
seconds.
Okay.
Because I don't know which one.
We practiced before the meeting, I
I was
promise.
going to say, I can probably start talking now, right?
It was hooked up.
It looked beautiful. There you go.
You're good? We're good, don't touch.
Okay. No, I won't.
Hi, Kevin said, my name's John Ramsey. Rebecca Kwan, my other engineer, is not able to be with us because she's getting married tomorrow. I should actually congratulate her for that, but I forced her to work today anyways. So what we've been asked to do is look at the beach nourishment possibilities for North Scituate. It's obviously one of your beaches that's has problems, and obviously you guys have a whole series of beaches that are in jeopardy.
If I can interrupt you for 1 second,
Sure.
John. This basically is along Glades Road from Well Rock, and what we're permitting is all the way up to the end of Surfside Road, that whole beach extension from Glades
Wow.
and also the other section of Surfside Road.
Right, so it does not include Egypt Beach, the undeveloped section, but right up to...
All the way
Egypt
down
Beach.
to Musquashka Pond? Was that the...
Right at
Yeah,
the
in
edge of
front of it.
Musquashka
That
Pond.
farm there.
Going all the way up to Glades, to the Adams Estate?
No, not
No,
up to
to
the
Well
Adams
Rock,
Estate,
No.
just to where
The rock
Bailey's
is.
Causeway is, where the rock is.
Little Rock is.
Correct.
That becomes minor
Thank you.
beach at that point.
So obviously, project need, and I don't want to go too fast or too slow, but I just want to give a little bit of background. I think all of your beaches have very similar issues, whether it be Hamaraka or this beach. Obviously, this has a seawall. We have some wave overtopping issues. A lot of the beach area here, we have beach lowering and loss of sediment. And obviously, over time, one of the things you've seen is your beach is lower because you got a lot of wave reflection off the seawalls. You have nothing to supply your sand. One of the things that people talk about, in order to solve this, is trying to put out all sorts of other contraptions and types of protection offshore, add larger seawalls, build revetments. One problem none of them address is the fact that you really just are starved of sediment. We've decided to develop the coast of Massachusetts. This is not a new issue anywhere around here, but one of the problems with developing the coast the way we have is we've really made it so the beaches can't naturally migrate the way they want to migrate. So our choice is either to retreat or to put sand out in front. And obviously, one of the things that there are a lot of other solutions that people have promoted, breakwaters, submerged breakwaters, again, revetments, seawalls. More recently, there's a lot of concrete being proposed in various places, these wave attenuation devices that I know there's been talk about in the town. Myself, as a coastal engineer, we do design all those different types of structures. I actually recently just did a wave attenuation device design down in the Gulf of Mexico. And in places like that, actually works fairly well. If you have a situation where you have a very low tide range, generally mild wave energy, which obviously is not the case here, they work because they stick up out of the water. They can attenuate the waves when the waves hit them because they're not overtopped. If you try to keep them submerged at low tide or even at mid tide in a place like this, when you do have high tide or storm surge, like the northeasters we get so frequently, they really don't attenuate any wave energy, and therefore they really have no benefit. So I just want to, again, there's a lot of ideas out there and a lot of concepts, but really trying to go back and trying to deal with the base concepts of what we need to do as far as, moving this coast forward, not just here, but, probably in a lot of other parts of your town, is dealing with the sediment starvation issue. Rebecca's here from CZM, representing the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs, but this project was funded, this design work that we're doing was funded primarily through a grant from the state. And it was to look at coastal processes, evaluate various alternatives, do a project design, and eventually, hopefully, as the design progresses, is to move into environmental permitting. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but environmental permitting is really the crux of a lot of the issues, and it's a very complex and difficult thing in every state, but particularly in Massachusetts. There's a lot of fisheries issues. There's a lot of concerns. Beach nourishment, which is one of the things we're talking about tonight, is something that's fairly new to the state, at least in the recent times. There have been a lot done before the 1960s, but since the 1960s, most other states have continued to do it or even progressed in many ways, where Massachusetts has really kind of fallen behind, I guess is the best way to say it. But just want to point that out as we move along.
And I think the Army Corps had done in '74, they nourished that particular beach and brought the sand back up. I could be 74?
I thought it was the late 60s, at least the design. But I think, and a lot of that, one of the things that's changed since then is a lot of the design issues. A lot of what the Army Corps did, and I think what maybe part of the reason why you don't see it as frequently anymore in New England is they have a certain template they always put out, certain volume that they always put out. And in the case here, where we get such a large storm surge and such large waves coming from offshore, very often the beach got overtopped right after it got built, and therefore it washed away very quickly, and people started losing faith in and I'll actually point out some examples of that. One quick thing I just want to point out, because people kind of gloss over things like this. This is actually Short Beach up in Winthrop. But this just gives you an idea of, just the silliness of wave overtopping. This is really an almost waveless day, just that little bit of surge, which of course you get here, but it's such a good picture where you just get that, not much of a wave, but the wave is going over the wall anyways. The vertical walls reflect a lot, you get a lot of wave energy, and then when you have storms, you get a lot more wave energy going over just because that water can go up, the wind blows it across, and you get a lot of overtopping and a lot of damage. One of the things we've always look at, this is from the South Shore Coastal Hazards Atlas. These are actually multiple flood insurance claim properties. They're big dots because it's kind of a privacy issue. So we make them big dots, not to make them look bad, but I mean, these are your whole town, your coast looks like this, and you know that very well. But obviously the project area we're talking about has quite a few claims. The one area at the north end doesn't have as many claims, but that's because the road's actually in front of it there. And the wall's in pretty good shape, and you also have a little bit of wave protection from the rocks. But in general, you have an area that gets slammed pretty badly, and there's multiple repetitive loss claim FEMA properties.
That isn't Scituate. That map there is not Scituate.
Excuse me, yes, that is. That's Scituate.
Yeah, so it's North Scituate.
It is, huh?
Yep, that's North Scituate, and the downtown's just around the corner. So that's the Cohasset Harbor at the north end there.
Yeah,
okay. So this is just some pictures from the blizzard of '78. Just to, again, I think you guys have all seen it. You probably see it way too often. Unfortunately, recently even. But obviously one of the things that we're trying to do, seawalls themselves, as they get undermined, are certainly not going to hold up. And so we certainly trying to do something else that is going to push the waves away. And I want to point out that anything that we're doing is not a recreational beach, but the way this is designed is as shore protection. This is your primary shore protection as it's being designed. So as part of this design process, these are just the elements that we're going through. We've been looking at the historical shoreline change. I'll touch on that briefly. A lot of the engineering assessment is looking at the various sediment transport pathways and the waves and the grain size of the beach. The next task is to investigate potential sand sources. Right now, we're only looking upland. I'd love to look offshore, but right now it's very difficult to get permits for dredging offshore, and that could potentially lower the cost. But again, I would at least suggest, as the town looks to this, is that that's almost more of a state-driven process to try to go after the concept of offshore sand mining rather than a town going after it, just because it ends up being so politically and technically onerous, I guess is the nicest way to say it. We're developing the nourishment design, going through the engineering design of all the aspects of the project, delivery, et cetera, and then again environmental permitting, which I'll touch on. This is shoreline change. The yellows are very low erosion. And the beauty of this is we have very low erosion here, but the only reason why we have low erosion is because we have the seawall. If you look at old historic shoreline change, we actually have pretty moderate shoreline change throughout this area. But even down in Egypt Beach, the area, the shoreline change is actually pretty modest, but it's basically just lowering of the beach is what we're seeing in front of the seawall. And these are just beach profiles, just a quick look at cross-sections. And these are two sets of cross-sections, one from the earlier 2005 LiDAR, which is just an airplane survey, and then 2010. We really don't get much change, but the reason why I wanted to show these is just to show you that, and obviously if you know it as going out to North Scituate, that the beach offshore is very flat. And the advantage of that is that the amount of volume you need, now you don't have to fill up a very deep profile, you only have to fill out, and then you can, at the end of your beach profile, when you fill it, you're at a very shallow depth, which means that there's not as much volume needed, which is at least some level of cost savings moving forward. That did not come out very well. Looks better on my screen. There's a shaded area. This is actually just the grain size. One of the things I just wanted to point out, what we want to make sure we do is when we put sand on the beach, we want to make sure we're putting material that's quote-unquote compatible, which means, you know, anybody who's been out to the beach, we have a mixture of sand, cobble, gravel, and we want to make sure we're nourishing with that. That's the other thing that the Army Corps tended to do, was just bring in sand, sometimes fine sand, and again, that doesn't last on a beach like this. So when we're sourcing the material, we want to make sure that we're going with material that is more similar to the grain size. We actually have taken up numerous grain size samples along the beach, but also down at Egypt Beach, because that's a nice, more of a cobble gravel system, but looking to make some sort of mixture of that material moving forward to try to use that as beach nourishment. Again, I just want to brush over this, but we did do extensive wave modeling. This is what Rebecca Kwan, the other engineer working on this, had done, and we do this for many projects where we're looking at the waves coming primarily, obviously, from the east, but looking at a variety of wave conditions. And what we're after is trying to figure out the sediment transport directions, not only right now, because you don't have a lot of sediment moving, but in the future, when we put the beach nourishment in, how long is it going to last, where is it going to move? And that's the primary driver for the design of a beach nourishment project that we go through. This is the same process that is done in the Gulf of Mexico, all the way up and down the East Coast, and even in Massachusetts. And one of the things just to point out, Massachusetts, because we're in an area that had glaciers, and down in Florida, et cetera, it's really easy to design a beach nourishment because all the offshore contours are nice and parallel, and all the waves come in very nice and clean, and it's great. And here it's just a mess. So it's really important to do this type of modeling so that we can see how waves
John, what's this actually show? I see you have different colors, and it's the whole Boston Harbor.
Yeah, the different colors. So the different colors are depths. So it's all you're seeing is the depth contours. And so the shallowest waters are in green, the deepest are in blue. And you see kind of the jagged edges to those is just showing that you got all these old glacial remnant features that are offshore, all these various bars and glacial drumlins that are sunk. And obviously our shoreline is not straight.
Gotcha.
And so those contours will tend to bend the waves. And on the next figure, you'll see just an example of waves coming in and how they bend. What they try to do is line up to the shoreline if they can, in certain cases. But obviously the various offshore rocks and other features offshore are going to reshape the direction the waves head. And so we looked at, I believe approximately 40 different wave conditions, some storm waves, some mild waves, and based on their percent occurrence came up with sediment transport rates, which again you can't see all that well, which is unfortunate, but basically sediment transport in most of the beaches heading to the south, no big surprise there. Right at the north end you see the sediment transport heading to the north. The arrow direction is to the north, and the values that are color coded, so the lowest amounts are in dark blue, the highest amounts are in the red. And so on Egypt Beach you have higher sediment transport. And again, this is just existing conditions. We don't get a lot of transport right now because we don't have a lot of sediment to move. And then we have a southerly directed in the middle, but again, that rate is pretty mild right now. We do beach nourishment. It looks a little different.
Can I ask you just a question?
Sure.
Can you just explain that a little bit better, that last slide?
Sure.
So,
I wish I had a
if you
pointer.
don't mind. Just the difference between the blue to the red, I mean, does this mean are these the areas that need more renourishment, or is this where you're seeing?
It's not necessarily a more renourishment issue. What it is, oh, that's something. Yeah. Does that move or not? Okay. So at the north end, we're protected by the rocks, so we have a very low energy, wave energy there, and it's pushing a little bit of sediment up north, and you see that build up behind the rocks over time. So that's just telling us the direction of transport. But basically at that north end, you really don't need much because that's kind of self-protected.
Okay.
Now, as you go into the middle part of the beach, and again, this is existing transport, we have a pretty low transport rate that's heading to the south. So we know if we put beach nourishment in there, it's going to head to the south and supply Egypt Beach. A little bit of it likely is going to go north, but most of it's going to go to the south. So this just gives us an idea of actually where to place the nourishment. And then we would, as we develop these nourishment templates, we'll look at how that's going to move and be transported. And that gives us how long the sediment, the nourishment's going to last.
Okay.
So it's just a kind of the basis for looking at longevity.
Thank you.
If that helps. I hope that's clear. And I just wanted sort of a quick tutorial on nourishment. One of the things, a lot of people, when they think of nourishment in Massachusetts, you guys have been through the North River dredging, and sometimes, historically, sometimes some of that sand's ended up on the beach. But when you do a small beach nourishment, it disappears very quickly. Basically, the rule of thumb is if you lengthen a nourishment twice as long, you end up having 4 times the life. So the longer you make the nourishment, the better off you are. It's just like anything else in the coastal zone. If you put a little spit out there, it's going to disappear quickly. But if that, you end up making that a very long spit, then it's going to last quite a bit longer. So just looking at 1,000 versus 2,000 foot long beach nourishment, and in our case, we're looking at something that's closer to a mile long, that stretch of beach. You're looking at something that might change from being a 3-year design life before you're getting down to around 30%. You want to maybe re-nourish to 12 years. So you basically quadruple your design life just by doubling the length of the nourishment. And that's just kind of a rule of thumb, just as people are thinking about this. The other thing I talked about, the type of material. If you have a material that's coarse, and fill material that's exactly the same size as the beach, and a fill material that's finer, if you look at these, that's how you place the fill, and then over time, the finer fill ends up having to move way offshore just to get in equilibrium with the waves. The fill material is the same size. Some of it moves offshore, but primarily most of it holds. But if you do use coarse material, you really can stand up and you get a nice wide beach width. Obviously these are just common sense type things, but it's the type of things that we analyze and do a quantitative analysis to get an idea of how wide the berm's going to be over time.
Is that based on studies and findings?
It is, and we have...
I mean, I know the Gulf is a whole separate, the South is a whole separate, West Coast is different. Is that based on modeling from New Jersey on the way up to Maine, or what are we looking at as a...
Well, what we do is that we base it on a variety of models. A lot of what we do with the cobble nourishment in these gravelly type things, there's a lot of work that's been done in Europe, primarily England, and they have many different models set up to show how the berm is going to equilibrate and change forms and set up to wave climate similar to what we have here. They're dealing with the North Sea. The wave climate's very similar to what we have, and they have a tide range that's similar to what we have as well. Actually, bigger in most cases, but so it is something more similar to what we have. And we certainly use the appropriate models for what we're doing.
Right.
But it's certainly Europe is again probably more advanced than we are as far as some of these things go.
How do you anticipate the change in the grain of sand that's there today as opposed to what will be there after we do this renourishment project? I mean, will it significantly change the coarseness of it?
It shouldn't. What we're looking for is we're trying to find something that's about the same as what we have. We have a kind of an envelope now, and that's what you couldn't see on that plot, but there's a broad range of material that you have now, and what we're aiming to do is try to work within that range. So the material overall will end up being about as coarse. The one change that you have is because right now you're sediment starved, you kind of get the mixture of cobbles and sand. Mm-hmm. When you do a beach nourishment like this, what tends to happen is the waves will push up the cobbles into a bar, and then you'll get the sand seaward of that. So it tends to, when you have enough sand, it kind of segregates them. If you've ever been to a beach that has a cobble bar on it, Trying to think of some of the beaches around here that might.
Sand Hills.
Yeah, Humrock's actually not a bad idea. Well, Humrock's a huge example of a lot of cobble. And it certainly wouldn't be that much cobble, but you get the idea of the way those get pushed up. And so that's... so one of the things that we look at, and again, I don't want to get into too many details, but we're looking at different berm widths. And when I mean berm widths, that's the flat part of the beach that we build out at a certain elevation, which would be, somewhere around the 100-year storm surge level. So you build it out flat, and then you taper it down into the water, let's say 1-on-10 slope or so. And so what we're looking at is about a 50-foot flat area and then tapering out. And when I say, this is at the 100-year storm surge levels, it's almost, it's a couple feet below the top of the seawall. So this is a very large-scale beach nourishment. This is not, just putting sand out there. This is going to cover over the entire revetment that's in front of the seawall. So this is a large project. And again, we're looking because, as you had pointed out, at the north end, we don't...
That's huge.
Yes, and I'll show some pictures of a project. It is huge. But again, we're trying to get something that's going to give you guys some design life and not be something that's going to go away in a couple of years. As you pointed out, the north end there, you see how we've tapered all the nourishments are no more than 50 feet there, and then it builds to 100 feet because we don't really need it up there, and that material, some material will go there and actually maintain that just by sediment transport. And then again, as we get down to the south end, the middle part of the nourishment tends to feed the other ends. So you tend to do the middle widest and let it feed the rest of the system. And this is just some preliminary modeling results. And this shows the percentage of beach nourishment left over time for the different scenarios that I just pointed out. And so we're looking at 3 different options, one with a 50-foot berm, one with that middle part being 75-foot wide, and then the third one being 100-foot wide. Right now, using the material that's on the beach, we're looking at having about 30% of the material left after around 18 years, with the largest option. One thing I'd point out with this is FEMA, and this is the way Florida always gets constantly renourished, and we don't talk about this a lot, but if you monitor your beach nourishment and talk about maintaining it, if you lose material during a named storm, a storm that's a declared emergency, you can actually get reimbursed from FEMA to replace the material you lost. So just keep that in mind. It is something that, Florida takes...
Because it is an engineered beach.
It is an engineered beach. So Florida takes a huge advantage of that, and other states do, New Jersey as well. And the Army Corps, knows that trick very well, and they get a lot of federal dollars that way. So keep that in mind. It's not something, again, we don't do a lot of it up here, so we don't see a lot of that. I know that, I'm pretty sure that Revere has gotten some money that way, and I know that Barnstable, Dead Neck has gotten money for doing that as well. So that question always comes up, does this work? It's, because...
That would be my question.
Of course. So, I just want to run you through a recent example in Massachusetts. Obviously, if you look around the country, pretty much all the beaches in Florida are engineered beaches. So I hesitate to think, all of Miami Beach is the Miami Beach had disappeared 30 years ago, so it is a completely engineered beach, and most of the beaches along Florida are. Again, we don't have many examples up here. There is a recently completed project in Winthrop Beach. If you fly over the airport and you see those breakwaters offshore, that when you come in for a landing at Logan, this is the beach out there behind those breakwaters. This is what it looked like. I believe this is probably 1999. This is the Tewksbury Street ramp. I'm just pointing that out just so you see where it is. This is what the seawall looks like. It looked like in 1999. It almost looks like Scituate. But that's what it looked like. This is a beach nourishment design. Again, it's about a mile long, and those are those 5 breakwaters. They're called the Five Sisters. So they already had a beach behind them, but what we were looking at doing is filling the beach to the north. We're actually putting a structure in this case, which is a large groin at the end, and then also filling in the southern end. And again, we're looking at somewhere around 13 to 15 feet of fill.
What's the groin? What are you saying, a structure?
That structure, it's an L-shaped, so it goes out from the beach. Yeah, it's that red thing all the way at the north end.
Yeah.
at the top.
Okay.
And that's, and the plan of it is over on the right here, just as a schematic, but what it
That's
is...
to prevent the migration?
The migration of sand going north, because we had sediment transport going to the north all the way to the north end, and it's held it very, very well. But, you know, in that case, we had some environmental resources we were trying to protect. There was a lot of rocky intertidal area there, and they wanted us to make sure that we didn't have sand migrating into it. So that was built up there. There are already some groins along the beach, so it wasn't that huge of a deal. But again, this bottom plot shows the way the existing template was. That's in the blue. And then the proposed template, which went out actually 100 feet wide at a flat, up at 12 feet. And so again, if you look at the maximum fill, you're looking at somewhere 15, 16 feet at that, you know, out at the face of the berm. And then sloping down from there. This is what it looked like during construction. This was constructed in 2013 and 2014. So this was a truck project, or it went through a onerous permitting process trying to use an offshore source, but ended up being eventually denied by the Army Corps. So this was actually a material that was an old embankment for I-95 that was supposed to go through Boston. So most of that is sand, and then as you'll see that there's some cobble brought in, because again, we were trying to make a sand cobble mix for this beach, but this is what it looked like during construction. And this is what it looked like after construction. And again, this ends up being kind of this gravelly, cobbly surface, because it is a coarse material, just because that was what was native on the beach. But I'd like to point out where the Tewksbury ramp is. That, you know, that was sticking in the water. You know, now it's 150 feet back from the edge of the water. And this project, you know, went through, you know, everybody's been talking about lovely Winter Storm Juno. The biggest problem they had this past winter was that they actually had to plow the streets for the first time in about 40 years. So, you know, they never had snow because it all got washed down the streets. So they didn't know what to do with all the snow. So they, you know, this year, and there's that terminal structure that's preventing, you know, a lot of the material from coming down. And again, it's just the before and after. So your seawall's exposed, and then this is what it looks like now. And it's you know, at least based on monitoring over the last year and a half, it's done very well. It has not, you know, moved much at all. You know, there's been a couple of little hot spots, but in general, it's holding very well. Most of the material is still there. So, kind of moving on to next steps. The things in red are things that we're still working on. You know, we actually need to finish a beach survey, which people who are up in North Scituate will probably see some people out there in boats and working on the beach later this month. We need to work on the potential sand sources now that we've identified what grain size we need. And generally what we do is it's kind of almost a manufactured material where you're making a grain size of sand and a grain size of the other material, and then you end up blending and mixing it on the beach. It's not a big deal, but we just want to make sure we get good prices for what that is, because it's more of an engineered material. We're looking for rounded material, so we don't want angular stone. This is something we're looking for natural
cobble
bank material, exactly. And there are sources for that. You just have to get the people who have the pits grab it before they crush it into crushed gravel is basically what you need to do. And so there's a lot of native material like that, glacial material that's around. We need to finish the engineering design, refine some things, and then the last big hanging chad there, the environmental permitting, which is really, it's something honestly is something that takes a year and a half, and possibly even a little longer depending on how the agencies react. It's a long process. You know, a big project of this nature is something that just takes a while to work through the details, because again, it's not a very common project for Massachusetts, but it's certainly something that is looking forward, and something that needs to be done in a lot of places, and so the state's recognizing that.
So John, or maybe this is to Nancy, is it DEP primarily the permitting source, or is it is there a coastal agency through the state?
Rebecca's one, she's Coastal Zone Management. They've been a big proponent of, moving towards beach nourishment. DEP is one agency. They've generally been in favor. We have to deal with some of the fisheries issues. Some of the fisheries agencies have been a little bit less receptive. And we're then working through the Army Corps permitting process, which again takes a lot of comments from fisheries and et cetera. But in general, if you're not going offshore, beach nourishment's can get through those hoops. It just takes a while. If you end up going offshore, then it can take,
A little longer.
a lifetime, yeah. Winthrop, we went through 13 years of permitting to be denied, and then had to move to an upland source, which is not where you want to be.
Which they learned from those mistakes, and that's why we're not going for an
So what
offshore.
happened, in other words, you had to go through an upland source, in other words, you were trying to get it from dredging?
Oh, we were trying to get it from dredging.
That's why they said no.
We had an offshore source, so it was about 8 miles offshore, and it's
Because of the fishing and probably everything else, destroying it. I got you.
yeah, so it's we worked through the process, and that's what the outcome was there, and I think it's something the state's going to have to struggle with,
Yeah.
because eventually, the cost benefit, really comes down to it. At some point, you're going to want to do that. So I think with that, I'm just going to.
And
Question,
this is-
or Kevin?
This is all grant work. We've been working with Rebecca through Coastal Zone Management we've had funding from them, and that's gone as far as we have with the engineering. Our next step is we're going to be coming back to actually start the permitting phase now that we're going to have a design soon, and then we'll continue with that operation and continue doing it. It's a very specialty task. There are only 2 engineering firms that I know that have had any luck with it in Massachusetts, and they work up and down the coast. John's company's been better at it than the other. We're happy John's on board with this, and we're going forward. Dan Smith filled out the initial applications and did a fantastic job getting them in, and Coastal Zone Management's been very supportive. There is another round of funding coming out. We've already got 2 grants for this. The first one was for the engineering, the second one was for the permitting. The next item that we would go for would be construction. We're not going to make the construction season this time because our permitting won't be complete. As John said, it would take a year to get the permitting set up, going through fisheries and everything, and we hope to be in that position soon, working on that.
Rebecca, I just want to say thank you very much with CMZ. I mean, this is a great, I think it's a great project. I think it's something, obviously, we want our ducks lined up to make a go of it, because I think it's going to be something that's very successful. John, the presentation's phenomenal. I think it's great for people to see. I think, there are other options out there to accomplish the same feat of trying to preserve your coastline, and obviously the coastline continues to shift, so the question is, what's the coastline? But I mean, for Scituate, I think it's very important for people to understand that, this is a great opportunity, and North Scituate has could be a big benefit for all those residents up there for doing this and increasing the size of the beach, especially because a lot of people complain about the beaches retreating and obviously, eroding and moving elsewhere. So, questions from the board?
Rebecca, I just have a couple, in your opinion, you fully support this type of renourishment? Have you seen this be successful in other East Coast landscapes like ours?
Yes, we've seen it be successful in Massachusetts. There's been several successful nourishment projects. Revere Beach is a great success. It's lasted for quite a while. And there's a couple on Cape Cod that have been significant in size. A lot of the other nourishments have been smaller scale. But, when you design it the way you do this analysis with looking at the sediment transport, the way it's into a careful design, matching the grain size, then it can be very successful.
Okay. And then, thank you. And thank you for coming down for this. And then my second question, what's the overall cost that this is going to take? Obviously, we're securing grants, but I think it's important to understand the undertaking that's...
And I don't have a firm number right now, but if I had to throw out a number, we're looking at somewhere in the $9 to $10 million range for the project. It's not insignificant by any stretch.
Thank you. An important thing to add is that what John pointed out about the sediment starvation issue, that's a lot of what's going on with a number of your seawalls. You've got this erosion of the beach out in front of it, so you're not getting energy dissipation. There's tremendous overtime.
Full frontal, yeah.
So this approach to building the beach to dissipate the energy is key to addressing a lot of the issues you're dealing with.
And maybe to point out, the one thing, we were involved with the coastal structures inventory for the entire coast of Massachusetts. So one of the things that we, the takeaway for us, eventually, the beaches erode to the point where the seawall needs to be replaced. If you put this beach nourishment in, you don't need to touch the seawall. And replacing a seawall, I think we priced it up in Rockport. It was maybe 3,500 feet. It's somewhere around $16 million. So, eventually you get to that point where you need to deal with it anyways. this gives you, that buys you the time, because now you don't need the structure of that seawall holding up anything because the nourishment is in front of it. So.
Many of our walls need to be replaced regardless. It's
Yes.
kind of, last line of defense is, it's seen its better days. But regardless, I think there are opportunities in both ends for walls and also beach nourishment, some other options.
John, I just want to add too that this beach nourishment program, and to your comment about other options other than seawalls, we have had a number of inquiries after this winter about what's happening in Hummerock, and that if there were more seawalls, then there wouldn't be overwash on Central Ave, and we wouldn't have the problems. So Patrick and Conservation has been working very closely with CZM and DEP to sort of explain how these things occur, along with the SWAN model and the wave action. And there's actually going to be an informational forum for not only Hummerock residents, but anybody in town who wants to attend next month at the high school. So we can talk really about the science of what's happening on the coast and why some methods to respond to the impacts they have work better than others, and what the geography and the science that actually causes them. And the date of that, Maura, is the 16th, and Maura's
Rebecca's
been
coming.
really, and Rebecca's coming, and we really would encourage all coastal residents to go. That's why we're having it at the auditorium, to understand that, it's things like this and what's happening in the water that dictate what happens once it hits the shore.
If I can just bring up quickly, one of the things that we do consider is John said, this is structural to hold up the wall, which we agree with, but it also brings back a beautiful beach to the town, and it has a recreational purpose. And we also think, or at least I also think, it opens us up for the use of CPC funds also to help supplement some of the funds that we would get from the state, and the state's been very supportive on the funding so far.
No, I think, you and I talked about this before, and I think that's a great opportunity for us to tap into other sources of funds to pay for it. Grants would be great, but, we can't rely on it. We got to think of other ways of finding this, and so, yeah. Marty?
Yeah, just a quick question. So we finished with the engineering for a particular area of beach, and put a plan of action in place as far as sand, cobble mix, whatever. As it starts to basically erode, as a move, if you will, does it have to be re-engineered years later?
It shouldn't have to be re-engineered. Again, as I mentioned, FEMA could potentially pay for bringing in other material. For that example, Winthrop Beach, one of the things is that we're actually looking at, the material goes back behind the Five Sisters, is potentially mining it there and bringing it back. But it doesn't need to necessarily be re-engineered. The engineering should be fine if it's engineered properly in the first place. After that, it's really, if you lose the sand completely offshore, then you're going to have to bring something else in. But if it goes somewhere where you can mine it from, you can also bring it back.
So basically, you'd go with the initial mix that you had?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Tony?
Yeah, you answered a bunch of my questions. Can you give us kind of a visual, I mean, we all know Minot Beach, so you're starting at Well Rock and you're coming down. That beach is unusable right now. There's no waves
high
come
beach,
right
right.
up against the seawall. You can't,
I found that out this winter, trying to survey.
So what is that going to look like? If you said the sand's going to come up just a couple of feet below the wall, how much beach are you actually going to have going out into the water?
Forget maybe the cobbly nature of that, but you're going to get a beach that looks like that bottom picture that goes out, and it's going to be, if this is a 100-foot wide berm, but the actual water line at low tide is probably 350 feet away from the seawall.
Really?
Yeah.
And at high tide?
At high tide, it's about 140, 150.
Wow.
So that's what it will do, it'll help push that out.
Exactly.
away from
So
the
you get
wall.
100...
Because, the waves, as you see them, the waves, they come up, during the storm, they come up almost, they stop about 50 feet short of the wall. But that's the idea. We were trying to keep the waves during major storms, from breaking against the wall, is the whole idea.
And if I can, there's three options of what you have. It depends how much funds, how much sand you purchase. You could do one that's, say, a 25 or a 50 or a 75 or a 100 foot. That's the biggest case that they did in Winthrop.
Right, yeah.
Obviously, we'd like to do as much as we could,
Right.
but we would do what we could afford.
Right.
So the $9 or $10 million takes us from the rock at, mine it all the way down past Surfside to Musquashkett?
Yes.
So at those private homes on Surfside, they're going to have a 100-foot beach?
Yes. They might be very happy.
Right, well, I guess you get the public-private questions that you gotta
Exactly,
deal
yeah.
with there as well.
So what's the next step then, from here?
Just one other quick...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. You touched that, visual, and then the seawall protection aspect, you touched that as well. Great.
Our next step is we'll be coming back to the board and awarding a change order to Applied Coastal to continue and now start the next phase of the permit. The original grant was just the engineering.
Yep.
Next phase with the RFPs that we had goes out and starts the actual permitting phase. So we would do that as the add-on to the contract to continue the project on for the permitting phase. And that would be dealing with fisheries, Army Corps, coastal zone management's in support of it, so we'll be dealing with all the different entities on getting support to do that.
We'll be working with the town to facilitate the permitting meetings so that they get feedback up front and can be as proactive and as efficient as possible in the permitting process.
Good. That's great. One last question, then I'll open up to the audience. Where's your company based, John?
We're actually on Cape Cod.
You are?
Believe it or not. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, of the oceanographic type people, there's a plethora of us down there. Just because of what's all oceanographic, yeah.
Oh, it's fascinating. Questions from the audience?
Is there any...
Name and address, Ted.
I'm sorry. Ted Good. I'm in mine at Grasshopper and Ocean Ave. Is there any source in the North River where we're pumping that could be used for this?
I can't say that there isn't. The questions about the source of material, it'd be great to get some of the dredge material from the North River. It actually is very cobbly, and actually would be good material. It's more of a handling issue if we have to double handle it, and whether it's, but if there's a way of getting it on land and being able to get it up there, I don't think there's a way of pumping it that far or getting it efficiently up there and pumping off. But if there were a way, then we certainly would look into it.
And once we permitted this, it would open us up. If somebody did have a large dredge project and they had sand and they were looking for a location to place it, a lot of times they have to dispose of it in certain areas. That would open these beaches up, that we would now be a supply source that they could place that material.
Yeah, and for example, there's a project that the Army Corps is doing now up in Piscataqua River in New Hampshire, and there's some towns up in northern Massachusetts talking about taking that material. So if there are these projects, the Cape Cod Canal, other different projects, I mean there's possibilities, but there aren't a lot, but there are some.
And I think the permit's good for 10 years once we receive the permit from fisheries, or is it?
Army Corps is good for 10 years. Local permits are for less, but you can usually get them extended. So.
Just a clarification.
Name and address.
Dan Smith, the engineering department.
Sure. Just so the audience, Dan, that's why.
The design, I believe, is for the entire length from Egypt Beach to Wells Rock. The study, the design and construction would only be for the public beach, which stops way short of Egypt Beach. It's only for the limits of the public beach that would be constructed.
And material will actually migrate down, because we know what the Selectmen transport is going to migrate down, and they are going to get a very wide beach down in front of the private homes. So, we're aware of that. That's hard to avoid. But.
So the easement problems, for what we're actually going to construct at this point, there's no easements. We already own the beach.
Right.
But we studied all the way down.
And we're going to try to permit the entire area, and we will see how that works out.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Permit the whole thing.
Yep.
We got the town portion, deal with that, and then maybe we can figure out the other and go all the way down if we can. If we can afford it and figure out how to afford it, yeah.
John, how much did the Winthrop project cost? Do you know?
I shudder to tell you, but I do know. Unfortunately, it ended up being around $22 million.
And who paid for the cost of it?
That is entirely a state project.
Yeah.
It's a DCR. And there were
Applications beyond what you should have here.
Yeah, we had $2 million. I think it's $2 million worth of services for traffic to
Police
get the
details.
police details.
They had police details at all the intersections coming in for the trucks. It was actually in the news, they were showing it. I don't know if anybody remembers a couple of years ago. They had police details so the trucks could get in quicker.
But the state funded that project?
Yeah, they funded the entire project.
It is a state parkway. The road is a state parkway, so, yeah.
Be like Wallaston Beach, I imagine, you know?
Yeah, same thing. Other questions from the audience?
Louise Fund, I'm on Van Hill Beach, and I'm just wondering, do you expect any negative effects from this? I'm just by the pond. I'm going to be just south of this project and not eligible for this project, but...
I don't see any negative effects. I mean, you're going to get some sand. The material that would come to you first would be sandy material, because that's the first stuff to erode, so your beach might get wider and sandier. If that's a negative effect, that might be something that you might not
I
want.
won't be sending all these waves down my way.
No. We'll try to get you some sand.
Other questions? All right, well, this has been fascinating and a great presentation. And I know, Kevin, it's something you talked about to me about a month ago, and I'm glad that we were able to do this. I think, obviously, now this next step is the permitting to see what we can do. If there's anything that you need from us, clearly the board will act on it expeditiously. If you need signatures or whatever you need, just let us know. Kevin, you'll let us know, I'm sure.
We'll be in soon to award the second phase of the contract to apply coastal. And that can get the permitting started. I believe the money becomes available July 1st. Okay, so it just became available, so we'll go to the next phase.
So as soon as you can get it, without,
We'll be on the agenda very soon.
Good.
Great.
Great. John, Rebecca, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nancy,
Thanks for coming in.
thank you.
Thank you for coming
And
in.
thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
See you soon.
And Rebecca's been a great help. I can't say how helpful she has been getting us all going and ideas and everything.
That's a great
I was gonna
project.
say, not many people say that about Rebecca. Sorry.
Well, we appreciate it.
Don't
We
scare her
do.
away on us, okay, now?
No, she was a big help on the rebuilding of the Squashka farm. I had other ideas, but it worked out.
Made sense. Yeah. So, all right.
Thanks.
Thank you all
Thank you very much,
Thank you
folks.
very
I
much.
appreciate it. We're going to move on now to what was at 7:50, but this was a very important discussion. Discussion on the Peggotty Beach Dunes. Pat Galvin, Conservation Agent. Kevin Cafferty, Director of DPW. Pat, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Thank you very much. So, where are we at with this? Who wants to start us off?
Well, I think we have two things going on. We have short-term, and that's making sure there's access for the beachgoers.
Yep.
And then answering any concerns about the height of the dune and the planting of the grass. And that's all going on currently, but I think long-term, we really need to do a new order of conditions where the town is a partner, and we have it engineered, and we have coastal geologists look at the best way to preserve this beach and to provide some protection for the marsh. But right now, it's kind of like what you all think is appropriate for the beach for this season. And I think if, if the dunes had to be brought down, that would be on Kevin's side, and they went ahead with some planting in an area that, was kind of tucked away over this past weekend, so.
Okay. Kevin?
Pretty much what Pat said. The dune's been built, it's part of it's already been washed away, and we have some plantings up there now, so.
I guess my only concern is the far end of the dune. Is it still, I haven't seen it in a week or so, is it still a very steep thing, and do we need to bring that down a little bit so that it's usable?
It is steep. It's steep, it's kind of culled into where it is.
Right. So that's what we've been talking about doing for a couple of weeks now, to just take the backside of that berm down, just so it's more gradual, so people can use that part of the beach. And the planting on the other side of the berm, which is, I think, what you guys did, is, per your request, is, in the spots that you thought were fine, is...
Yeah, they had a lot of it done the way they had done it over the last 5 years, so it was planted in there, so. So are you talking about the south end, or just everything east facing is being too steep?
No, I think by the entrance, probably about 2/3 past that, until you get to the houses, is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Even when you get halfway through the houses, it seems like it's not bad. It's really the furthest end where you start hitting the houses that are the one,
left.
there's the other one that's in,
Right before the one
no,
on the
the ones
still.
that start going, where there's a house in front of the other ones. Those are the part of the dunes that I saw that were very, very steep. So that's the part that I thought you were just gonna come in there and kind of mold it so that it was more of a gradual.
We can knock that down. We were waiting for the final blessing to, so to say that everybody's in agreement, and that's what we'll do. We can schedule a machine to come in there as soon as possible. And
People are going to start going to the beach.
Yep.
Soon. So, and that's what we talked about all along. I think with the neighbors out there, that's what we talked about. And
Yeah, I think we put everything on hold until we met tonight with you.
Good.
All right.
Right?
Was there still an issue with fencing, Pat?
Oh.
Yeah, there was a question about the fencing. There's some fencing near the public parking lot area to help the dune grass grow. And then in the past, the neighbors in Harbor Road, people had put up fencing so that trap some sand, which is a good thing, and also allow some of the grasses to grow. That's been on hold. I think there's some fencing down there that's just sitting on the ground. And it depends on where, whether you want to allow them to put it up and where you want them to put it. I know the issue of blocking access, we don't want to have any people that can't get down the beach because of fencing. So we talked about not having it at the east side, downside of the dune. It may make sense to put some dune up there to allow, some fence up there to allow the beach grass to grow without people cutting through. But,
So where do you think, Pat? That's what that it would make sense.
it's been at the top, kind of at the top of the dune in the past. I believe for a couple of the years it was pretty much up at the top where probably people aren't going to be walking anyway. And, it wasn't down on the beach, right on the beach. So I think over the long term, we want to have it engineered and have a coastal geologist say exactly where the best place is. Right now, we're kind of guessing, where to put it.
So there's fencing there now, so what additional fencing are you talking about? That's what I'm confused about.
This would go parallel to the houses on, in Harbor Road, and probably maybe 50 feet out from the houses.
So adding on in front of those houses, adding on to what's there today?
That's on the top of the dune, kind of, but parallel to the homes. That's where it's been off and on during the last 5 years, while the permit was in place. Right now, I don't believe there's anything up there.
the plan that was given, that was put together by, was it L&E or L?
Not sure. Yeah.
The plan that was...
LEC.
LEC submitted, it showed it on the top of the dune and on the back of the dune for the fencing, I believe.
Right.
And there are a couple different locations where the fencing went along on the outside. So that's one of the reasons we haven't knocked it down, because if we knock it down, obviously you can't put the fence at the top of the dune.
So the fence right now is where they put those new posts in, along that area. You walk up the entrance to Peggotty, you go right, that whole area is protected. And that's where I think they have a problem, is people, as you've said, they go in there all the time, so you gotta, if you want them out of there, you gotta keep that fence up. But when you start getting down to the houses, so that's gonna be on public property.
Correct.
On top of that dune. And what are we trying to accomplish there?
I think if people are walking through there and, trampling the beach grass, it's not going to make it. So I think it was a way to help stabilize the dune. In the ideal world, you'd have it planted on both sides and it would be a flatter. But we don't have a lot of beach room down there, so you're trying to compromise between the beach access and the preserving of the
The only people, there's no parking down there. The only people that walk there are the residents and the renters, right? Do people,
I don't know.
Maybe there's some, but there's probably, the most of the traffic is down by the entrance of Peggotty.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Brenda Hunt, Inner Harbor, year-round. I can tell you, I've seen a lot, and people are coming up over the dune. Not only in front of our houses, they're trying to get in the conservation land. Some things you probably don't want to hear, but there's teenagers now up on the dune urinating on the plants. They are cutting through between our houses. All that's newly planted grass. The only way to keep them out is to keep the fence up to protect the dune. Otherwise, they do come over the dune because they're too lazy to walk up the walkway. They cut through conservation land to get to the parking lot because they don't want to walk all the way down. If you have the fence up, they can only use the walkway. Right now, the fence is toppled down on the roadside access road on the beach parking lot. So they're trying to get up over that now to jump over the fence.
If you don't have the fence, all the plantings will be gone.
Where are they coming from?
The beach, the kids, people are on the beach, they go all the way down to where Slocum's house is, out on the
Right.
water. So they gather around and then they come up the dune and they cut through in between the houses.
And they go on your private property?
Yes. I had someone that had a full wedding next to my house. They weren't even from Scituate. Never asked. There was a red carpet put down, a stretch limo. They will do the unthinkable without asking. I have pictures of it. I was floored. I didn't want to be a poor sport, so what was I going to do at that point? But they literally had a full-on wedding. People are bold, and the fence is to preserve the dune, which in fact, as you know, it sounds like we're constantly saying this, protects the road, protects the parking lot, protects the marsh, which feeds the harbor. It's nourishment. That's what we were just talking about with North Scituate. You can see it. It works if it's done right.
I mean, I'd have to rely on you, Patrick. I don't think a fence on the backside of that dune, that's not where people go to recreate on the beach. I don't think. I think it's on the beach side of the dune, not the backside of it, so.
But they come up over is what
Right, so I'm saying, I don't
Yes.
have a problem with the fence on the backside of it,
When you mean backside, what do you mean, the ocean?
closer to the house. So you got that, you got like that 12-foot,
So that'd be on the
Plateau.
lower side of the dune? Or
just the
top
side
section?
closer to the houses.
Okay.
On
No.
top of the dune, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we planted right up against.
Right.
Yes.
So on your side, on the house side of the dune,
Yes,
I mean, people aren't going there to lie on the beach.
no.
They're lying on the other side of the dune.
Yes.
It seems like this, a long-term, but this is with the plan going forward, but probably the most efficient way is to put the fence all the way around it, circle the dune. So if people think they're going to jump the fence, they're still going to have to jump a fence, and ultimately they're going to say, just go through the walkway. I've seen it on the Cape beaches, where they'll have it literally going down one side, and, they put the fence all the way around.
Right.
Huge
Right, the other
dunes.
thing is, if you don't put it on the front, on the ocean side of the dune, it's going to erode away. As kids run up and down, it's going to keep
Right.
eroding.
That's why
away.
they put it
So-
on both sides,
Right,
both the
right.
back side and the front side, or the whatever, ocean side and the other side. Either way, it keeps the
Right.
dune in place. Also, for birds and wildlife too, but
Right.
they put them on both sides, I've seen it.
Right, but as Tony heard too, is the beach is wearing away, you don't have, a high tide, it doesn't leave you a lot, so it's balancing it, and it's kind of what the town wants, whatever.
There are a lot of people that walk dogs and everything else, or even just walk on the beach along that side, and one of the fears that we had is that if you put the fence on the lower side of the dune, you'd prevent that during high tides, extreme, high tides, and you'd have complaints in that direction also.
Beach nourishment. Hey, imagine doing that 50 feet out, Peggy Beach.
There'd be no cove.
There'd be no cove, it'd go straight out between the cliffs, but, all right, so,
So what do you want to hear from us, where you should put the fence?
I think the residents want to know that too, I think.
Say, put it on the house side of the dune.
I'd say put it all the way around, but
Yeah,
Well,
can we
you
do
can't-
that?
You can't circle the house.
No, at the top of the
dune
dune,
itself.
put a continuous circle at the top of the dune, like
Right.
John's suggesting.
No,
So
it's
then
a-
if someone was going to do it, they'd have to do it twice.
have to jump
Right.
over two
Yeah.
fences, and they're gonna be like, forget this.
Well, after
That
Kevin
will clearly
levels
make
it,
sure nobody will go
We'll
over.
level the other side. I'll work with Patrick on that. We have purchased some fence posts and some fencing itself that we were going to donate to the residents who are actually going to install the fence. So they can work with Patrick on picking the locations with the feedback you get from the selectmen.
Yeah,
so
I
if
think,
you want to circulate, your post closest to the beach is going to be on the backside of the dune, and then you go towards their property. So the circle goes from the backside of the dune around towards their property, and then like that, right?
yeah, I think 2 years ago, the area that's fenced now closer to the parking lot, that fence continued down along all 5 houses, and it wasn't on the beach side of the dune, it was kind of on the top, but more on their side. That seemed to keep people out, and then each home had a little walkway so they could get out through the beach.
Right, well, the public, if you put a walkway for you or your renters, the public, those kids are going to use it too, right?
Jane Everett, in and out of the road. They do, but, the beach is for everybody, and we love the beach. We want people to enjoy it. We don't, And I love children, I have grandchildren, but you know what the kids do? They pick the grass because they're little and they don't know. And if we have just one little area that doesn't have the grass in it to get to the beach, that's where they're going to walk. They're not going to trample over the grass, and they're not going to dig. Kids dig in the sand.
I guess I'm just confused. If you want to put a circle, that's going to stop you guys from having an opening, right? If you're going to put a circle over the dune towards their property, you guys aren't going to have direct access through the circle.
Some of the properties will have their stairs like they always did, and that's always a given that it's open. And if somebody comes off the public beach,
they just come
it,
through
it. It happens, but at least it's not on the dune, on the grass,
Right.
you know? Right. I mean, stuff happens.
One resident who didn't
you
want
know.
the fence.
I just think that if you circle it on both sides, and granted, it's more fence, but at least you're protecting the dune, and once somebody finds out there's a fence, and they find out there's another fence, they're not going to do that again, and it will deter people, I would think. Plus, it protects the grass that's been planted. With the concern you have with kids picking it, if they can't get access to where the grass is, which is on the dune, kids aren't going to be able to get there.
Well, that's why we have those little openings, so that the children on the beach could come over, because they love the creek. The kids love the creek. That is like the best nature study in the whole world. They always come there.
All right, well, can we do that then?
Well, just to be clear, because we're going to be out there, I want to make sure we have the message. We have circled fences and should Kevin and I go out and talk with the residents and put a couple of fence posts and then have people take a look and see if that's what they want?
Why don't we do that?
Before we...
We just got to do it.
We've been talking about this since April 1st. These folks have spent, I don't know how much time patiently waiting. I think we can do something that gives you discretion or some contingency that we can get it done before another week goes by.
Yeah, between now and Memorial Day, June 1st.
So the only contingency that I think we have to have is the fence, the closest the fence is going to get to the water is on the house side of the berm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I'll bring a machine in there and I'll knock some of the berm down, and I'll level it off like we did at the entrance.
Right.
I'll work with Patrick on that, make sure everybody's happy with that, and that it's kind of a safe, stable slope so children don't fall off.
Right. And you guys know that if you put an opening in there, that you're opening up for not only you to get out there, but for other people to use it.
Right.
And we love that.
It's discreet, some of the spots.
Okay.
It's like, people,
And I have the fence, I've got the fence bought, it's now at the highway barn, I will bring it over and I'll unload it for them this week.
Great. Thank you, Pat.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Kevin, ladies, thank you very much. Any other questions? All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Going to move on to 8:15, discussion vote, commercial pier regulations. Mike Beers, acting harbor master. Michael, good evening, come on up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I first want to say kudos to you and for all the people who went out and did some clamming that the rec department put together on Saturday. It was well done, and I heard great things about it, and so thank you. You take some people out up to the North River, and
Yeah, we had a blast. Good time.
it's a great,
Sold out in 13 seconds, I heard.
That's what I heard too.
it was well done. So what do we have before us? Approval of commercial pier regulations.
So we have a new commercial pier being built, and so now we have some new set guidelines for patrons and people on the pier.
So what's so new? What's new as compared to the last time we had it?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't have the
old one?
The old one, I don't.
All right. So what's important about these new regulations? Mr. Maraki, how about you? You've been on the pier a lot with your boats, so what are we doing here?
Too long, maybe.
Commercial regulations, what are we doing?
What's important, I think, that you should know is that the fishing industry, which is the primary user of that pier, is undergoing a very difficult time.
Yep.
With primarily federal regulations governing the taking of fish, and there's actually been an attrition of boats. So what these regulations are trying to do is to optimize the use of the pier in terms of deriving revenue for the town and keeping a level of business going by opening it up to a diversity of new patrons rather than just the boats that are docked there, providing dockage for the existing boats, providing additional dockage for transient boats, utilization rules for transient trucks that be servicing those boats, and the possibility of providing dockage for smaller boats that don't have moorings, that traditionally didn't use the pier, but now have no other recourse.
I guess my question is, I don't know what they were before, so I don't know what's changed. So if they are, and I guess we can just let it vet itself out, and when somebody comes and complains because you can't park this far away, then we look at it again, or does anyone know if there was any substantial changes to what this document was before this?
Well, I do, because I actually lived under the previous rules.
So what's different?
It's basically provided reasonable fees for transient vessels. Those were not in the previous codification of the documents.
Okay.
It provides fees for trucks that service vessels, and it basically codifies behavior, that no litter or debris on the pier, things of that sort, cleanliness, housekeeping types of things. It basically embraces the same philosophy that this is a commercial fishing pier, but tries to broaden the base of users to try to get more activity there rather than simply seeing the existing population of users dwindle because of the federal rules.
I see juice catchers, in other words, nothing's leaking out of the trucks and creates some
minimize
kind of smell.
The smells.
I gotcha.
I mean, one of the things that we really, I personally, and I think the other members of the fishing community in the town are really interested in, is building a linkage between the businesses on Front Street, the restaurants, the shops and everything, and the pier. The pier is kind of a unique attraction. There aren't very many commercial fishing piers left. And trying to build a reputation for locally sourced seafood available in the shops and the restaurants. And you don't want smelly fish on the pier as the harbinger to this wonderful fish dinner. We want everything to be really nice and ship-shape, and this codifies that.
What about the parking? I know, like, now with the new pier being now paved and everything's done, preventing, shall we say, just people in general trying to park in locations on the pier that frankly is used for fishing, whether it's transport or unloading or for fishermen themselves to be able to get access. I realize there's something in here and it's enforcement, but I mean, has that been an issue, or?
It has been an issue in years past. I mean, we try to let everybody at least go on. It's hard to regulate everybody. Most people stop, they go on, look around, and go. There are some people that will park there all day and spend the day and take spots. That's why, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to enforce a parking ticket. That's why I'll pass that up to the PD. They can run the plates and either try to give a phone call or write a ticket to them.
Tricia, you're going to say something.
Yeah, because I guess I'm kind of confused. The reason we asked for, one of the main reasons that we asked for the pier regs to be looked at is because we just spent $900,000 down there for a brand-new pier. And we asked the Harbor Master's office, and maybe Mr. Eckhouse can comment, on ensuring that that investment's maintained and that some of the practices that were going on at the pier were tightened up, just like Mr. Mariachi mentioned about the juice catchers and things like that. So while I certainly understand and appreciate the intent to expand the use of the pier to new groups, and which I don't know whether the board favors or not, because it's news to us tonight, is we really, I don't know, without having the prior regs, know, how much is changing. Where did these new proposed regs come from? Were they based on another community, or Mike, what was the...
Yeah, I based a lot on other communities, and actually just going down and just observing some of the activity on the pier. I was able to come up with a lot of it on my own.
And Waterways reviewed this, and...
Waterways,
okay.
I sent this out on an email with Waterways and drafts, and to some of the local fishermen, and I asked for everybody's feedback, and I got it all, and took it all in, changed some things, went over things.
So, but the main concern, to your point about parking, is that was one of the main concerns of the board when the pier project was first developed, is that when it was completed, that just those type of issues were addressed better. as far as enforcing parking, so it is there for fishermen and for people who have the primary commercial needs to have access to that pier, and that it remains clean, and there's not consistent storage there by fishermen that they can't, which the new regs address really, really well, I think. And again, it was mostly to make sure that we have this brand-new facility that we really want to ensure is used by the proper folks, which is foremost for us are fishermen, and then also that, people who shouldn't be there overnight and everything aren't there. And I see a lot of that's in there. It's just, as Tony said, hard to know what's in and what we had before, and I suspect we're going from, B- to A,
Right.
but we just don't have the evidence.
What about the, in conjunction with the pier, what about Lucian's Landing? Has that been a problem with, I know, because fishermen are down there to some degree. Do we have similar problems in that area on Cole Parkway?
No, not that I've heard anything, and I spend a lot of time over there.
That's close to your office, but I was just
Right.
curious whether or not that's something
No,
that should be
that's
applicable to both, or?
been pretty well policed over there. The guys really seem to take care of it themselves pretty well. Pretty
Tony?
respectful.
Yeah, I think most of it's common sense. I was just trying to avoid the guy that comes in 2 weeks because he didn't know this was on the agenda and says, you changed it from 1,000 to 2,000, and we got to deal with a headache. So, but we can do that. That's one way of handling stuff, so.
All right.
Thank you. 21, where you have, the owner shall not store supplies, materials, accessories without your approval. How will you differentiate who you give approval to do that and who you won't? It seems a little broad-based.
Well, it all depends on, I'll work with anybody, but it all depends on what they want to store there.
And do you have a problem with that today? Are there certain vessels that store belongings on the old pier today?
No, these guys have been a great group of guys. This is more for, newcomers that come, we want to set the guidelines that this is the way it is. The fishermen there now are nothing but respectful, and things have been working very well.
So what do you call, Frank, Frank, right?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Is it lockers or chests, the lobster holding floats?
Lobster cars, perhaps?
Is
The
that what
floats?
The floats that are out there that you put
Yes,
the lobster?
those are lobster cars, C-A-R-S.
Okay, that's what they're called, all right.
My other question was, you write here that a lot of the enforcement is on behalf of the police. Have they read these?
I'm not
What
sure.
they're going to be
honest with you.
responsible for enforcing?
I know they do know, park-wise, they do know that they are responsible for that.
Do we have signage
Yes, we do.
down there? And I haven't seen it yet because I haven't been on it.
I don't know if it's all up, 'cause
Parking, like minimum, because Paul
Yep.
Scott was telling me they're getting, he
Yeah,
was on the project,
I
so.
don't know if it's all up yet. I know some of it is up. I think there are still a couple old signs. I think they're waiting on some new ones, but there will be
And
full
will they have like
signage everywhere.
timing, this is
Yep.
60-minute parking versus whatever, fisherman parking and so
Mhm.
on? All right.
I just have a question. Well, I don't expect you to know all the numbers, but number 23, there will be no permanent liveaboards at the town pier. Transient vessel in good standing with prior approval of harbor master will be granted transient liveaboard status. Now, what's the cost involved with that, and what's the length of time that they're allowed to be there?
Transient cost-wise is $50 a night.
Okay.
And the liveaboard came in, a guy might come up from the Cape that's scalloping out front, so he, technically, you can't live on your boat, but, he might stay here for a week. So a lot of times transients will come in, they'll stay for, a minimum of time, but the guys will stay on the boat.
Okay.
As opposed to trying to get a hotel or trying to find somewhere to stay. We
Yeah,
just
so-
don't want permanent residents living on the
Right, that's what I was wondering. Some of the boats that are coming in there, it's really tough to stay on them. That's why, the main reason I asked the question,
Questions from the audience? Dick, you got any questions?
None at all.
You sure you don't want to grill them right now? No? Okay.
No, quick one.
Yes.
I'm Fran McMillan, the Waterways Commission. Just this evening, this afternoon, I noticed that, I don't know how we are as far as signing off on the job that they did with the asphalt, but between the two catch basins, there's a low spot. It's catching all the juice. It's not going into the catch basins like it should, so you just might want to take a look at that.
Okay.
Will do.
All right. Mike, can you be sure to check out with, I thought Paul Scott's...
Yep, Paul's done a fabulous job.
Check to see, because it's probably, I forgot if it was Pilgrim or who did the... Did, I was right. Check to make sure, come back and have, make sure that they...
Paul is down there almost on a daily
I know,
basis.
he told me he was keeping an eye, it was the signage he asked me about. He said he wanted to make sure the signage was going to be updated, and I said, let's make sure, so, all right. So I guess a motion, please.
Move to approve the Town of Scituate commercial pier regulations.
Motion by Mr. Vignani,
Second.
seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen, Mr.
Thank you.
Maraki, Mr. Beers.
Thank you.
Mr. McHugh.
Thank you.
Good evening and thank you. Dick, likewise. Mr. Millen, thank you. All right, let's move on to 8:30 discussion vote, a beach commission charge.
So you have in your packet a draft charge for a beach commission. As way of background, this is a requested the board chair to, instead of having sort of the beach sticker study committee come in every other year to look at how we administer the beach stickers and sort of what kind of activities are going to happen at the beaches in terms of amenities with the beach revenue and things like that, that we really needed something more permanent and better framed as far as our beaches for recreational and also long-term needs, and whether we should be looking at other beaches, developing other beaches, amenities, but also educating the public about things like we heard tonight as far as beach nourishment. So fortunately, there's lots of models that we can use to replicate that happen in other coastal communities, and this proposed charge sort of takes elements of all of those and customizes it for our unique needs here. It has been reviewed by the Conservation Administrator and the Recreation Director. They both submitted comments, and it's here for you to review and comment, and if you feel so inclined, adoption this evening.
So what do you think?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I already read it earlier, so.
Yeah,
I just have a question. What's the difference between, under duties, 3 and 6? Do we need both?
Probably not. There's probably some redundancy. I take
Just shorten it
full,
a little bit.
so 3 under duties, Maura?
Yes, 3 and 6 seem to say basically the same thing. I don't know. It's not a big deal. I was just curious if I'm missing something, what the difference was between those two. It's about to manage, investigate, and improve community access to providing recreation opportunities. And then 6 is to solicit and evaluate community interest in and to provide for recreational opportunities at public beaches.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not wed to any of
Well,
this.
one is for access.
And one's for interest.
Technically, and the other is to get their interest.
Interest, community
Just
interest.
to let you know, it's the,
They're spelled just
Is
a
there a
little
lawyer
different.
that looked at this?
just all I can say, it's just we're covering the bases, you know?
You can drop it.
So will they have a budget that they come before us and then we approve it? Is that the way the...
It's the beach revolving fund, which you review every year now, and you get detailed in the
They're gonna come
budget.
before us and say, we propose to put a water thing here, a
Yeah,
bathroom here, blah, blah,
It's the
blah.
beach,
Right.
so instead of seeing the beach sticker committee, because we just called it ever since we did it 5 years ago, which is all staff, we actually are going to have residents who are going to be involved in what kind of things and improvements we can do to the beaches.
I think it's great, you know, for all those people on social media who are complaining about the signs and beaches, well, fine, get on this beach commission, you know? Improve your beaches instead of complaining about it.
And one
I
person.
love the
involved
new
in it.
signs, by the way.
I think
They
the new
look
signs are
great.
phenomenal, so I'm sure I'll get some comments on social media shortly, but this is a great opportunity for the town to get involved in their beaches. It's a beach community, we hear about it, we talk about seawalls, we talk about other infrastructure. Well, that's what people are here for, a lot of people, to enjoy the beaches like they did this past weekend for Mother's Day. So you want to make them better, you want to try to get more sand, you want to get some access, you want to get parking, you want to be able to have maybe bathrooms or outdoor showers to wash off different things when you're on the beach. Get involved. That's the bottom line.
No, this is a great
Better parking or
Good
whatnot.
idea.
So I think we should vote on it. right?
All right. Go ahead. Motion?
Move to approve the Town of Scituate Beach Commission charge.
Motion by Mr. O'Toole.
Second.
I just wanted an edit, that's all. That's okay.
But 3 and
With
6?
the edit,
With the
Yeah, it's no problem.
All right.
3 and 6?
Yeah,
There are differences, though. Interest and access.
all right, whatever, I'll let it go.
There's a comma on 13.
Seconded by Mr. Vignani, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. We did include this as a committee at the forum, and I think we have 1 or 2 apps already, so I'm glad.
People have mentioned it to me
Yeah.
that they like the idea, so
Yeah.
it'll be good, and we'll,
It'll be nice too, I think it's important to spread around, make sure we have somebody from Hummerock, from Peggotty area, from Minot area, because they're all unique needs.
It's a really good idea.
It'll be
when
nice
you get
if
all the beaches.
we can, you know.
We'll just leave Museum Beach out, I guess, that's all.
I'd leave.
get the renourishment there.
That'd be great, I can tell you. All right, let's move on to the next. The MAPC recommendations are being postponed, correct, until our next meeting, or is it?
Nope.
No,
We
okay.
can do them. I'll do them quickly. This is another request of the chair.
Yep.
To pick up, which we had that great presentation from MAPC a couple of months ago. You have that full report. It's actually the final bound draft was just, I got an email about 6 o'clock that it's on its way. I have an electronic copy. This is the one you saw at your meeting a few months ago. So in the interest of time, the recommendations of this study start on page 80 in your tablet. And what I believe John, correct me if I'm wrong, wanted to do was sort of look at the low-hanging fruit and things we could address now, and maybe task, I would suggest the traffic rules and regulations or whatever for some other things involved in this study. And I can do a quick summary of what those recommendations are, which essentially are, and I'm not going to include all of them, but replacing signage and uniformity and standardization of signage. There's different time limits or whatever. There's enforcement issues in terms of people taking up 2 spaces, people creating spaces, people parking overnight. I think the board at some point has to circle back and deal with the issue of overnight parking by business vehicles in the lot, and also by second vehicles by owners in the condominiums. And also, it talks about having boaters or folks who are going to park their cars for full days there, being able to obtain some permit or sticker from the harbor master's office. And then the other one was to work with Mill Wharf as far as, parking in their own privately owned parking area to be consistent perhaps with what the town was doing.
So I get the first one to improve the signage and get that consistent. Are you actually saying we're going to enforce these other things right now, or are we still like the commercial vehicles and the overnight type of stuff? Is that?
Those things you can do whatever you want to do, but I think we have the Traffic Rules and Regulations Committee already that I would be able to say, if you decided, please look at these recommendations and report back to the Board of Selectmen as to the efficacy and implementation, because we have Kevin on that, we have Lieutenant Thompson, Dottie Cook, a number of people who are very familiar with these kinds of things as a first step, and to keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with the commercial vehicles and overnight, I think no one's using the lot anyways, in most cases, but I think we should section off a place and make you pay a fee. If you want
agree.
to, if you want to park
100%.
overnight, go park overnight
Get
over
some
on
money
this
for it.
corner and pay $5 and they'll do it, because,
I think we should do that.
so is that the discussion that you want to happen at Traffic and Rule? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes. I also think they're not just there overnight.
Right, a lot of them are there
That's
all during the day.
the real issue.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think the other thing, Tricia, is Front Street, there should be signage on Front Street for the parking, so that we can get people, then they park on Front Street, they should be moving, if not, they're going to get ticketed. And the other, I think, for parking is, on the back side of Front Street and Cole Parkway, closest to the buildings, there should be like a row, if you will, maybe 3 to 4 rows up of short-term parking, again, whether it's
The
30
2 hour or
minutes
whatever it is, or...
an hour, whatever it may be, but in other words, because I think employees are parking there in some areas, and then they walk to other sections. So if they're going to do it, they got to move further away to enable customers to be able to park on Cole
We get
Park.
merchant complaints all the time down there. I'm sure John's getting it as well. I mean,
I think
it's-
that would be productive if they can look at that.
Okay, I did meet with Chief Stewart today about parking enforcement. Even now, there are some issues, and I'm down there frequently, and I've noticed an increase, and so it's already the beginning of the summer.
So you're basically going to look at signage and then to address some of these short-term and commercial parking spaces?
Task traffic rules and regs. The standardization, with the exception of what John just said, the standardization of parking. This shows 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, and branches covering some signs and other signs beat up, so, and I think that's
Some of
something...
them you can't read, yeah.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't restripe anything this summer?
I wouldn't right now.
Yeah.
I'd say get signs up to at least identify.
Okay.
And then, obviously, enforcement, I think, is important.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
Once we
the other
get the
thing that
signs.
bothers me is I find people parking in handicapped spaces, and I'm like, you know, boom, hit them with a high ticket. I could care less.
We had two issues today. I was down the harbor this morning, and the HP parking space in front of where the Mediterranean restaurant is going to go was vacant, but there was a motorcycle parked in the yellow line, and there was a car parked in the other. We have lots of parking in the yellow stripe painted areas.
They don't
And
understand, yeah.
So, yellows are pretty,
No,
but
I
it's
know.
pretty random.
Yeah.
So I think some of it's a matter of enforcement as well. And that tied in with the enforcement of parking on the new pier as well.
Do
There could be, just before I forget, I'll forget it. If they can, the traffic rules, maybe they can have designated locations for motorcycles, you know, and say, okay, you can bunch them up here. I mean, if TK says, look, I'm happy to have one parking area space dedicated to motorcycles during the summer, fine. Then we can stripe it, and they can park 5 or 6 of them right there. Maybe we do it in Cole Parkway and say, here's another section, you're going to park, you got to park there. And maybe there's another area on the far south towards South Coastal or Mountain One Bank. I don't know, just something they might want to look at as an option.
And then the final thing is to potentially increase capacity, and it mentions the lot across from TK's, which is something we as a town and the board, or I on your behalf, can explore. And I think that's, again, low-hanging fruit that we can get to right away.
Okay. Do we have any funds for any bike racks, or?
We had a grant for bike racks, that there's 6 bike racks throughout town. I think there's 2 or 3 in the harbor that are there already. And, you know, this talks about creating bike routes as well. But those are longer-term fixes, yeah. And I'm hopeful, you know, the Gatra bus, when it starts running, we can request that it have a bike rack.
That's a good idea.
So you can request those. In college towns, you see that quite frequently, so.
Okay.
Westfield.
I think just so that we get this started.
Yeah.
Because I think ultimately, I hate to keep trying to delegate it to a committee here, but frankly, it's easier to get a number of people to meet on a monthly basis to come up with ideas to formulate so that we can take a look at it. If it's easier to go through traffic rules, fair enough. But I mean, the expectation, the board's going to have to now, each meeting, deal with parking is, I think, just kind of ludicrous. We need to be able to have people who are willing to focus on this on a regular basis. But I think we need to get this moving, and I think that's, you know, I think, Tricia, you've certainly been advocating for it, and now we're through all the winter follies. It's time to take a look at this to try to initiate something, so.
Because then maybe next year, could it go on the capital plan to resurface and reconfigure all the parking? I mean, that's really probably where it would belong, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure definitely the striping and stuff. I don't know if we need asphalt in some places. Is that what you're talking about more?
Yeah, like just to redo, well, because I think part of the presentation was just the layout of all the parking spaces.
Oh, yeah, well.
In the back, you know, there are those islands, and just that it really needed to be
They could just do a
Tripped
seal
up
coat.
and-
They could do a
and
seal coat and then just
reseal.
restripe everything.
Yeah, and I think that's something that maybe what we should think about, depending on, you know, the position of the board going forward, is maybe try to constitute people at a committee, you know, to take a look at this in the fall or in the spring, at the end of the summer or something, to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an idea that I think makes sense. maybe it makes sense to stripe it and seal coat it, in other words, give some colors.
Well, the striping is not very, the study talks about how the striping is not very efficient now, and then lots of people park and take up double spaces or park where there isn't a space. So, and I know, I forget who it was that told me there's an opportunity to create even more parking if we, look at some of the configurations.
Angles and stuff.
Right, yeah.
I think it was when they did the
That's what he
presentation.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so I think, I agree with John 100%. We've invested the time and energy into this project. Let's actually do it.
Let's get it moving.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, Tricia, you'll get this going, at least with those things, so maybe we can get some movement on the signage with traffic rules,
Yeah.
enforcement, and then...
Signage first, enforcement second, I would say, because we need to really be able to, I mean, I got a call Monday, was it Monday or Tuesday? Must have been yesterday. It's same person complaining from the harbor, and they're claiming that vehicles are parking on the street, and it's in front of one of the banks, and it's the same vehicles every day, and they're there for 8 hours, and nobody can park there to go into the bank. So, I mean, and it's that one's clearly marked, so.
It's the bank's competitor.
Yeah, it might be.
No, but I think it's
I have
important
the
that we
plate number
revisit this
rehearsed to know
maybe
what kind of
in
car
about,
it
like,
is.
2 months, 3 months or something in the summer, and then we can go forward from there, maybe? Does that make sense? All right. Thank you, Tricia, that's great. Moving on to new business. I guess we have a discussion, one-day beer and wine licenses for a number of entities. The first one is Riva, a one-day beer and wine license for a rehearsal dinner to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 15th, 2015, from 5 till 10 p.m. Can I get a motion? Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All in favor? Aye. Second one is a hospitable hostess, a one-day beer and wine license for a graduation party to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 16th, 2015, from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Curran, seconded by Mr. Vignani. All in favor? Aye. Third is tailor-made bartending, a one-day beer and wine license for a party to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 16th from 1 to 4 p.m. Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Tailor-made bartending, a one-day beer and wine license for a party to be held at Scituate Maritime Center on June 20th, 2015, from 10:30 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is Silent Chef, a one-day beer and wine license for a birthday party to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 23rd, 2015, from 6 to 10 p.m. Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Ms. Curran.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The next one is a Silent Chef, a one-day beer and wine license for a graduation party to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 25th, 2015, from 1 till 4 p.m. Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is a Science Chef, a one-day beer and wine license for a memorial to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on May 30th, 2015, from 5 o'clock a.m. until 10 o'clock p.m. Motion by Mr. O'Toole.
Second.
Mr. O'Toole, did you make that motion?
Yes, I did.
Seconded by Mr. Vignani. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, moving on to...
the next one.
A discussion vote, one-day beer and wine license, new caterer to Scituate. It's a special occasion server at the
I was
Scituate
trying to get some
Maritime
more
Center.
information on this.
From June 5th, 2015, from 5 o'clock p.m. till 10 o'clock p.m. for a rehearsal dinner. Marty?
Yeah, I just, I mean, I don't know who they are. I was like looking at the background, trying to get some more information.
So if I may, Michelle is in charge of the Maritime Center and making sure all the caterers, this is a caterer that's based on the Cape. Their references were thoroughly checked, and to glowing results. Sheila, I don't know if Michelle spoke with you about it already, but I'm fully comfortable recommending to the board that they can do this, and I
wish I had
apologize.
spoken to you earlier. I was looking for-
That's okay, but we did talk about it at length, and she wanted to be sure that she vetted them quite thoroughly, as is part of her job for any new caterer, and they have all the required certifications for the tips and everything. Yeah, and I think you have that.
Yep.
So why are they using this one instead of one of the ones that we already have approved?
Well, you can't approve caterers, that's part of the problem that we learned when we redid the special event permitting. You can't say, you can do it, but I don't like you, so you can't. So, but what we do is if there's a caterer that has never worked for us before, because we have a very small universe here, you do it separately so you know that they've been vetted and go through the same requirements that our approved ones are, meaning
Right.
Silent Chef, Front Street Gourmet are before you all the time, so they're a known quantity.
Gotcha.
So.
Motion?
Motion? Where, I can't find it.
So moved.
Somebody screwed up my computer.
Move.
Okay, motion to grant.
Second.
Special Occasion Servers, Inc., a one-day beer and wine license for a rehearsal dinner to be held at the Scituate Maritime Center on June 5th, 2015, from 5 to 10 p.m. Motion by Mr. Vignani.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All in favor?
Aye.
Sheila, do you have those? Okay. Moving on to the discussion, vote election poll workers.
Yes.
Read that.
Move to approve the following election poll workers as recommended by the Republican Town Warden for the remainder of 2015 and 16.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think I'm supposed to read the
Read the
names.
list
Read
of
all the names?
Yeah.
So
You have to
I'm just
read
going to go, do I have to read them all, or can I just say as printed?
As provided
submitted.
to the selectmen by the town clerk or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
it says read names.
That's fine.
Okay.
As
You're good.
Be here all
what she
night.
said.
You're good.
All right. If anybody wants to come down, come on down and read the names. There are a whole bunch of them. That's people on the Republic, is it the Republican?
I'll read them.
Republican Town Committee. All right, go ahead.
I'll speed read them. Okay, this is, oh boy. Okay.
Page 2, you know.
Who's reading them?
Sure. So these are the people that we're approving. Jill Alabrandi, Dennis Baldori, Al Bonney, Cameron or D. Bonney, Kathy Bryan, Edward Casassa, Judith Casassa, Hope Crowell, Joan Drummond, Diane Duffin, Carol Fitzgibbon, Ella Francis, Karen Fry, John Gallagher, Robert Green, Dorothy Hancock, Elizabeth Schuchard, right? Edward Camp, Diane Kelly, Deidre Kelly, Anita King, Paula Kosman, Camille Leonardi, David Leonardi, Karen Lyden, Patricia Malone, John Manning, Eduardo McIntosh, Carol Miles, Marla Manier, David Nellis, Bard Newboer, Marilyn Walla, Ronald Robertson, if I'm butchering your name, I'm sorry, Emily Robinson, Carolyn Sones, Mary Smith, Harry Tuttle, Suzanne Tuttle, Kenny Walsh, Nick Waterman, Eleanor Waterman, Diane Wells, Karen Warner, Ethel Wheatley, Ronald Wheatley, Lori Withrow, and Deborah Young.
Should do the backside, too.
Is that it?
That's it. All right. All right, so let's move on. Correspondence.
Do we have? I don't think we have.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Other business. Anybody? Laura?
I don't have any tonight.
I just have a quick thing. I just want to kind of remind, if the Mariners here, it'd be a nice thing to put in. I'd just like to remind bicyclists that they do have some rights, but they don't have the right to cross through pedestrian intersections. Pedestrians still have the right of way. And that's really all I have.
Tony?
I will, I want to thank, actually, there's been a lot of going on with the Rec Commission in terms of where they're going in space, and I just want to thank all the people that have been involved in that to try and keep that thing moving. They're kind of in this transient position. And so Tricia and John McCarthy and all these groups that have put the time and energy into that, and Chris Roberts and Jen and Maura. So everyone seems to be on the same page now, and that's been going well. I was at a meeting with them the other day. And, you know, end of school's coming up. Congratulations to all the seniors. And junior prom was last weekend. Thanks to the police and all the people in the school that did that. That was a great event. And the election's coming up. Do we have a meeting before the election?
Yes.
We do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, 26.
So remember to go vote for Maura.
Thank you, Tony.
No sports update?
You know, I guess
Lacrosse, right?
Yeah, lacrosse,
did really well.
baseball, lacrosse, the tennis team's doing great. Baseball team is starting to peak. And
Lacrosse beat Pembroke? The Pembroke they beat?
I don't know.
It's a pretty good score.
Yeah. So anyways, there's stuff going on in the fields every afternoon. Head down there and support the locals.
I just want to put a thank you out to everybody involved in Ship Shape Day. That was about a little week and a half ago, and want to thank everybody, you know, individuals, people. I know Al and his wife, and of course TPW. It's great that we were able to kind of clean up the town from all the debris from storms and different things, and it's phenomenal, which is very nice.
This is one of the best efforts that I've witnessed. I mean, the amount of effort that people went in to the marshes and to all the seaside areas to pull out debris was phenomenal.
And aside from that, that's it.
John, I have a couple of things, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Sorry, you remind me, as far as Ship Shape Day goes, Mike Breen cornered the entire hockey team to go out and clean up a fairly remote or nasty area. I can't remember. We have a photo. I don't know if he sent it to you, Ruth. I'll try and send it so that the Highway Department also reminds residents that now that the good weather's here and they're trying to get repairs back from winter. There are a number of curb cuts, berms that need to be restored, and everybody's calling the highway department. And they're just a tremendous volume this year because of the storms. And also, Mike is down 2 employees, one due to a long-term injury and one that just left service. So we have you on the list. We'll get to you, but please be patient. Want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for Pizza Palooza. Mr. Chairman, you may want to comment as well. I was a judge, and it was a really fun time. I don't know if you want to add.
All the pizza was delicious.
And
couldn't figure out which one was the best.
And just Lorraine is not here this evening. Her son is graduating from high school this weekend from Zavarian Brothers, so want to congratulate him. And my daughter is graduating from college this Saturday and want to congratulate her, and I will not be here next week, so.
Enjoy.
Anything else? No? Ruth, you got anything you want to add? Any more political cartoons we're going to see?
You know, seriously.
Well, with that, I'll tell you what. I'll take a motion to adjourn. How about
So
that?
moved.
Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Ms. Curran. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, folks. Thanks.